Good evening. Would you believe it? It's Dr. Stu. What's on your mind? Oh, it's something in my mind. How does
Hello and welcome to all the bombs bursting in air and the fireworks and all this stuff. Welcome to another episode of the Chronicles. I don't know hopefully that weird background noise I'm hearing will not translate to the recording. I'll be very upset.
I don't hear it, but your audio is a little in and out.
You don't say.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. That could be something. I hate my internet. Anyway, I am Roddy Cat. I am your host for tonight. You can find me at Roddy Cat. I'm hearing an echo. Something's not right here. This is going great guns, folks. Anyway, Roddy Cat at Twitter. Forgive the sounds you might be hearing in the background because guess what? It's 4th of July. Surprise, surprise, people are doing fireworks. Roddy Cat on Twitter. News Nerds Need on Twitter. News Nerds Needs Reddit. Okay. CB Cap on Instagram. And with me tonight, Agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
And not with us tonight are PC_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and all of the umbrella sites they're in. And the Osiris of this ish, Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, The Click Nation, that's DKLIQNATION on Twitter, theclicknation.com, and of course, CV Crom on Twitter, and Comic Book Resources, where he's writing this off. Sorry, this is really screwing with me, and I hate this. I hate this. Anywho, it is 4th of July as we are recording this, and so if you are the one to celebrate the day off, or the Independence Day, or any other number of things like I say right now, which I won't, thank you. So there, as if on cue, we are here for your comic book enjoyment. And we're going to start off by saying that you can find this podcast on Google Play and Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts. If you have your headphones turned up, please turn them down. Just because, yeah, that's going to keep happening also. Spotify and also the Cold Blizzard Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. And that is it, folks. We're going to get into comics. And we're going to start off with one we've both read.
We're not doing Broad Stroke.
Oh, whoa, yes.
I'm sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, we literally discussed this right before going on, and then the Gremlins invaded. So, yeah. As it happens, we actually went to see Spider-Man Far From Home this week on its opening weekend of release. Spoiler alert, even though we're going to only do broad stroke discussion stuff, I'm still going to ring the spoiler bell because there's going to be points where even vague mentions of what happens in the movie will amount to spoilers for some people. So I'm going to ring the spoiler bell and give yourself some time to lower the volume or fast forward in case you have not yet seen Spider-Man Far From Home. In 3, 2, 1, here comes the spoiler bell.
I should probably, and I'm not too late to do this, but I should probably be like, hey, if you want to avoid the spoiler, go through this. I'm not going to do this. I'm sorry.
Say again?
said that I would probably, if I was up on my game.
Yeah, because your audio is like kind of breaking up on me. Yeah, it's warbling. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm hearing it too, and I don't know why.
Yeah, it's garbly, so that's why I asked you to say that again, because it might have been, it might have been something super funny, like, oh, like you did a teaser, or at least like a lead into like any part that's particularly spoilerific.
Come on, it's me. There's no way to be funny. But anyway,
wait a second.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, and that's going to annoy the high hell out of me. So hopefully this is going to come out on the outset.
All right. So back to
Far From Home. Go.
Back to Far From Home. So broad strokes, I enjoyed the movie because it definitely maintained. What's funny is that in the wake of Endgame and the 5 years later blip / snapping.
Yeah.
Right. The vast majority of Peter Parker's friends were also snapped away. So,
I like the fact that they took the time to explain it, because a bunch of people, including us, had that wonder how they were going to do that.
Right, and that was welcome. I definitely welcomed that. It was right at the beginning of the movie. It was, talk about narrative exposition right there. Like, set the stage, literally in a kid's news report. And if you're familiar with the video news report from Homecoming, it returns in Far From Home with lots of comedy. So, what I liked, the first thing I liked about it is that it's a continuation of the high school vibe. We did not immediately exit from the high school vibe that was in Homecoming, as opposed to previous versions of Spider-Man's story being told, where immediately he's an undergrad, and on his own outside of Aunt May's apartment or a house, and trying to make his own way. So it's still, we're still dealing with high school age Peter Parker dealing with high school problems, and it's kind of nice to have that continue into a second movie.
Yep.
So, just like I said, broad strokes. I had a little bit of trouble actually adjusting to the smaller, more intimate stakes and the storytelling for a lot of the first part of the movie, because I'm fresh off a second viewing of Endgame with we'll talk about it later with with the re-release and the additional footage and whatnot. So I had a little bit of trouble adjusting to it. I was still absorbing the movie, but I kept thinking, like kind of expecting like the big, slam bam, thank you ma'am, like really big set piece, and it didn't come. And I had to remind myself, oh, this really is just a Spider-Man movie. So I had to just adjust my expectations and proceed accordingly.
Right. Although during the course of the movie, there seemed like there could have been, as this is not necessarily exploring anything, but could an Avengers level event,
right,
in it. However it played out, but yeah, you after coming off of Endgame, you kind of wonder, like, okay, yeah, we're going back a vibe, but it still doesn't make it any less epic.
Right. I wanted to mention that one theory that I had been on as a result of the trailers was a huge red herring.
You and other people, I'm sure, if it's the same one I'm thinking of.
Right, and that was disappointing to say the least. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, I was like, okay, we thought we were going to get more out of this than what we knew, and apparently that didn't happen.
Right, and I was mildly disappointed by that. I can't say I was hugely disappointed, but I was at least mildly disappointed, because that particular theory led down a rabbit hole, and if you were a fan of the comics, you understood that would have opened
there was
a whole host of
yeah,
a whole host of possibilities for stories.
Yeah, but Well, it did open up something, but at the same time, it was what it opened up wasn't surprising. And I'm talking about the stuff that at the end credit, which, by the way, spoiler alert. Hey, there's a mid credit and the end credit scene.
Right. I was going to get to that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just kind of putting that out there.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the importance of them too.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that this movie, I think even more, actually just as much as Homecoming, had little bits that tied into other parts of the MCU, specifically in Civil War. Obviously, the Homecoming had Spidey's, kind of recap Spidey's introduction in Civil War, right? So in this, we go back to Civil War because there's a callback to some technology that was introduced in Civil War, and how that played forward or played into the plot that was developing in this movie.
Yes, and there's another Civil War tie-in that happens at the end of the movie, which we won't go into.
Sure.
It was probably arguably bigger, but at the same time, it's just as significant.
Right. So here's a mild spoiler: they definitely revamped the origin of Mysterio. He's not a special effects guy, but he's not a movie special effects guy. But
Correct.
What they make him still makes a lot of sense for the character.
So that brings up something, because I kind of wondered about that, because obviously, yes, he is not, but he had his team, and we do know there have been a couple of different versions of, even in the comics, of Mysterio, whether in the different universes and or in 616.
Right.
Which, by the way, they called the 616 out, which I think is not the first time, but still, I feel like it felt like the first time they've done it out loud during this whole time, but I know that's not entirely true.
Right. I think in terms of out loud, I think it is the first time, but we've seen it referred to, whatchamacallit, like on star maps, I think.
Yeah.
Like in Guardians.
Yeah. Oh, and I was going to mention, I don't know, I need to remember that. There was a license plate that showed during a scene that was not necessarily, I wish I could remember the whole thing, but it was, I want to say it was relative to a comic, an issue of Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
Because, and this is not so much of a spoiler, this could possibly fall into a more of an Easter egg, but basically the license plate was started off as ASM, and then it was like 28 something. It was like a 5-digit thing, which I'm not. Obviously, the first 3 letters, has a little bit more meaning than quite possibly the rest of it.
Right. Exactly. It could be a callback to a specific issue and events that are in. So I did not see that. Otherwise, if I could remember that, write it down.
There were a couple of shots where there was a chase, and it's like, okay, they're like the camera angle, kind of like, okay, clearly you want to call attention to this.
Right. There was unfortunately, for people of a certain vintage, this was not classic rock; it was rock. But there was a joke in there that made me audibly groan about a seminal classic rock song.
Yes,
that was a big part of the very first Iron Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally the first thing you hear in the first Iron Man movie. Anytime you pull up the first Iron Man movie, anytime you pull it up, that's the first song you hear.
And actually, going off that point, that was not the only thing that tied back to Iron Man at all in this movie. Obviously, right. Some more obvious than others, I should say.
Right, and there's definitely some ties to, they're creating. And what's funny is that this is not new when it comes to fans of the comics.
Right.
Creating this particular bond between Parker and Tony Stark, and in this case, we've already rung the spoiler bell, but in this case, Tony Stark's legacy and just the type of scientist that he might be.
Mhm.
So
So before we go any further, I have to ask you. So everybody knew, and you knew that Mysterio was involved, and this could be soft spoiler, but probably not. If you know Mysterio, I mean, if you know anything about Spidey in his Rose Gallery, like, did you look for when or if things were going to shift? Like, did you go into it and be like, okay, this is going
oh, you mean the heel turn?
Yes.
to bring in a wrestling term that we know well. Yeah, I know. I was waiting to hear like gasps from the audience. I was just like, all right, where is it? Here it comes.
Yeah, I
Where
was
is
like, okay, where is this? It's going to happen sometime soon. This can't go too much farther without. Oh, there it is.
So was your theater full?
Not really. Like, it was in the middle of the afternoon.
Okay.
So,
Right,
'cause
because I had an early evening. Obviously, it's a 2-hour plus movie,
Right.
so it's not going to end until after dinner time. So, so it's an evening show, but not too late in the evening. And
Yeah.
my theater was reasonably full. There were there were more than a few people sitting in the front section,
mhm.
and the upper section where I was pretty full. So it was a good showing for a July 2nd show, a
Right.
Tuesday show.
Well, yeah, exactly. Since it was the first day, especially, but yeah, I would say my theater was probably like maybe 45% to
Okay.
full. Like, that was a bunch of gaps and whatnot, which is fine. And there was a whole other ticketing situation that I thought I had, which we won't go into it because it was weird. So yeah, it was fairly.
All right.
fairly for that time of the afternoon, anyway.
I wanted to get into one last thing before we talked about the mid-credit spoilers, unless you had something to bring up. But I'm kind of annoyed that we're 2 Spidey movies in, 1 Civil War appearance, 1 Infinity War appearance, and 1 Endgame appearance of Spidey, and not and barely an Easter egg of Uncle Ben. And I'm wondering if that's not something that Sony wanted to keep for themselves for their movies, or if Marvel was making the concerted effort to never mention him, other than an Easter egg and one thing about, in Homecoming. I actually rewatched Homecoming after watching Far From Home again. Far From Home. I watched Homecoming again, and I enjoyed it. It's still so much fun. Like, it makes you smile. And there's a part where when Ned finds out, and he's just like, and Peter says, "Don't tell May, not after what she's been through." So we know what that is,
Right.
So, but I'm wondering what's behind that, or if they just want to keep emphasizing Tony.
I feel like, and this is just me, my personal feelings of it.
Sure, this is just opinion at this point. So.
Right, having so many years of almost every other Batman movie, and yes, different people, I recognize that, but every other Batman movie reiterating the fact that how he became the Batman in Crime Alley and his parents, I felt like maybe they decided, we don't really have to go through this. Like, whatever they did, the stuff they did in Homecoming, was like, all right, we'll let them be that, and maybe they'll, in this next one, the inevitable next one, but I doubt it. And it's like, no, we don't need to do this. People know Spidey at this point, Plus, there was the other movies that kind of touched on it, So, and Spider-Man.
I was about to say, I figure that it's probably Feige's decision. As much as I want to like bash Sony over the head, be like, give us our Spidey back, but give us all the Spideys back then. But it was probably Feige's call to maintain the storytelling aspect of, we all know. So we don't need to go over it again. We used precious time in the movie. So, and
plus, you still kind of got it in a sense in that, because there was the call to his responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was, it wasn't an overt tie, but it's pretty much the one that everybody knows and knows where it's tied from, or most of them know where it's tied from. So I felt like it was enough. because like I said, most people who know, even layman people who don't really know comic books will probably know. It's like, yeah, Uncle Ben and da. Sure. Why waste time doing that?
Right. I'm really hoping that when they do, and they will do a third Spider-Man movie, and we'll get to that in a second. When they do it, I'm really hoping that they give Tom Holland the chance to give them with great power. There must also come great responsibility. They should give it to him. Let him do it.
Right, because they've always they've been alluding to it, and there's been even the tie they had in here when he actually said it. No, well, not said it, but said the word responsibility. There was that.
It's overhanging, right? Exactly. That's like the overhanging, situation. Like the background information.
Right, and that could be very much because, well, we knew about this because of the comics and whatnot. But at the same time, I feel like I said, there's been nothing cinematic where you know it, or even if you're a casual person.
Right. So that's really, I mean, before we get to talking about the end credits, is there stuff that you wanted to talk about?
No,
specifically. Without being spoilery about the story, right? Because as you see, what I was doing, I was like, broad strokes.
The thing with Peter and MJ, and that was kind of the thing between them.
Sure.
I was like, okay, sure, that was gonna happen some kind of way, but I don't know. That part felt like, all right, gotta get it out of the way, go.
I liked it. I thought it was sweet.
I did too.
What's funny is that I relate to this particular iteration of Peter Parker because the way the story's been set up is that they're in like a magnet type school, like a nerdy school, and everyone around them is smart, and they're the smartest of those smart people because they're the ones going to the decathlon, like from the first movie. So. I definitely relate to that, having gone to like a nerdy high school. So I was like, oh yeah, they are absolutely positively appropriately awkward.
Which is kind of funny in that scene where the thing between them when that goes down, and knowing what you just said, it's like, well, and this was being alluded to because like you kind of had a sense even from Homecoming that the MJ character knew something, more than she let on, and that kind of came out here.
Right, and what's funny is that it mirrors the comics to a certain extent. Like it's taken out of the comics and repurposed because that's essentially how the Mary Jane character finds out. She knew before everybody else. Obviously, it was a little different because it was a geographical thing as opposed to being in the same school, but it's still the same thing.
Right, but when it actually happened, it was like, oh yeah, by the way, but I gotta go. It's like, well, sure, yeah,
sure.
But outside of that, their chemistry is still great together, and it was cool to see that. And I guess anything else I have to say would have to do with the end credit scene. Oh, outside of the fact that Aunt May is still hot.
Well, I love the fact that this is something that they took from the Ultimate comics and the Ultimate Spidey that I don't mind.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
I don't mind this. I grew up with Aunt May is about to die. I have to get her medicine,
and we're still back under that in the comics.
Right, but you know what's funny is that they've kind of gone backwards on that in the regular MCU, where she's like a feisty senior.
Right.
Not frail.
Right.
So they've kind of de-aged her even in the mainstream as well.
Right. Well, yeah, they basically, especially in the comics, they're basically kind of mixed the two. Like, yeah, she's still up in age, but at the same time, she's like you said, she's still kind of feisty, and even though she's up, so they kind of married the two universes.
Sure. So I definitely like Marissa Tomei's portrayal. They give her a lot more to do actually in this movie.
Yeah, really.
It's at the cost. I hate to say this, but it's at the cost of like Ned.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets a lot of great moments, but he doesn't have like that integral like guy in the man in the chair. Like I really like that from the first movie, like where they gave him a little bit of shine.
And his thing, and I guess this is without going too far into it, his thing with the person he ends up sharing screen time with.
That's Betty Brant. That's
Exactly.
their version of Betty Brant.
I know, but I'm saying that, but that is also something that was kind of out of. If I'm not mistaken, that's out of the book too, right?
Yeah.
They did have a, you know.
There's no Ned Lee. It's Ned Leeds. So yeah, but it is Ned Leeds and Betty Brant, right?
I mean, he's still gunky. I don't care, but
I know. Well, that's another story entirely.
yeah, it's a whole different.
We don't even have a Harry Osborn in this, so yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Which actually, I saw the actor, what's his Jacob Battalion, I guess his name is, or something like that. Said that I think there was an article saying that he wouldn't mind if his character either joined Shield or became the villain.
Hobgoblin.
Yeah. I don't know if he specifically said Hobgoblin, but basically,
Right.
because I didn't read the article always fully. I'm like, yeah, sure, I can see either one of them happening.
Sure. I got you. No,
Which there is no Shield anymore, so technically.
I was about to say, I think the framework, the loose framework for Shield, I think is still there because we're getting into spoiler territory for the end credits. So I'm going to ring the bell again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm re-emphasizing the spoiler bell just in case you missed the first one. Here it goes in 3, 2, 1. Oh, yo, that mid-credit scene was crazy. That was crazy.
Definitely didn't see either one of those coming.
Hell no.
Well, actually, no, I'll take that back. One of them
It's hinted at.
is hinted at, exactly, and you know exactly which one I'm talking about with that.
That's the second one, but we'll deal with the first one.
But that first one,
I literally, like, I probably yelled it out, right? But or at least projected it out. I was like, oh, shh. I was like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm. And I immediately went to the fact that we brought up earlier. I was like, well, there's another Secret Wars tie-in, but not nowhere near in the way that it happened.
Right. Yo, for real quick, there's still people in my theater leaving before the end credits. I'm like,
I know.
what's wrong with these people?
Mine too. Yeah.
And just very quickly, I talked to someone who does it, and she's just like, "Oh, I'll just find it on YouTube afterwards." I'm like, "No."
Well, that's fun. That's always never fun.
Exactly. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but you.
You're good because I haven't that.
So that first mid-credit scene was crazy. Without spoiling too much, we definitely see the return in a different form, but essentially the same character of one. And I'm not one character, and it was a surprising alteration of the character's visage. You know, the visual
now. So yeah, so it makes sense.
Right, but I just thought I got a kick out. I was just like, oh man, you know, like the facial hair is still there, but the upper hair is not.
Yeah. So I will say this: there's a reappearance of a person who has been in a Spider-Man movie before.
Right.
Played a somewhat arguably significant part.
Right.
This is the previous trilogy of movies. Who makes his reappearance here in grand fashion?
Right.
And it was, I think I had just as much probably or more kick out of that than the whole scene itself.
Sure.
Because like, oh, get it back.
Right. So, but the thing is, that was the first blank.
Right.
That was the first. I'm gonna swear on this. That was the first shit moment in that scene, and that was insane.
Oh yeah, that was the one that kind of got me as much, if not more, than how that scene ended. Because how that scene ended was like, oh damn.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's the thing. Because even the characters on the characters on screen reacted the same way we all did.
Mm-hmm.
Where how that ended, you were just like, oh my God. And I thought to myself, they can't do anything more. That second end credit scene is going to be like a throwaway. It's going to be like Cap saying, well, you waited this long and you didn't get any kind of fulfillment. You know?
So yeah, so as these end credits usually what normally have done during the course of the 3 phases, you know, the mid credit scene would be something linked to the next movie, and this one totally did. And then the next one would be something more broad in stroke, either going towards something the next line of bigger, you know, like the whole Avengers arc movies,
right?
or whatever's like. But since we're in phase 4, we don't know how that's what's well. It's arguably we're getting a sense of what brought that on. I mean, what we're leading to in that, but nothing of overt. Put it that way. But it is definitely leading to something probably grander in the phase itself.
Right. You get the feeling that what came out of the mid-credit scene is probably going to be the impetus for the next movie, and possibly a Sinister Six version. The Marvel MCU Sinister Six.
Well, see, and thank you for bringing that up, because yes, that brings up the fact that there was a revelation in Homecoming, as you just saw from your rewatch, of someone knowing about it, but not really giving it away,
right?
And someone else asking about it that now knows, and the implications going from that to where it leads into which means maybe we're probably going to get like you said, a Sinister Six type or some deal in the next one.
I love how Marvel beat Sony to it, even though Sony's a part of it.
Yeah. You know what? It was smart on their part. It was like, you know what? Look, we know you got the license. We got this thing going over here. Let's make this money.
Yeah, seriously. Let's not be stupid about this.
Exactly. So let's give the fans what we want and make that money at the same time.
Right. And now we're going to get to the last end credit. We're going to get to the end credit scene, and I wanted to remind the listeners and viewers that this movie is the end of the previous phase of the MCU.
Well, they did say that, yeah.
Right. This is the end.
Kind of said that, but at the same time, it's also seemingly going into the next one.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. It marks the end of the previous phase. But what's funny about the end credit scene is that we were catapulted into the next phase, teased as to what direction a lot of the movies are going to go in. And
some would argue if they seen that credit scene, like, well, we kind of already got this. Well, potentially we could have gotten this with the last movie, the movie before Endgame. In a sense, but not
anymore.
No,
Ant-Man.
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. Oh, that's right. But they needed Captain Marvel to transition into Endgame.
Right.
So,
but which I do love, because I think we alluded to the thing where there was mention, and which seemed almost like a throwaway line, and that the end credit scene was like, oh, okay, well, that explains.
Oh yeah. There's a mention of Captain Marvel, and one of the characters reacts a certain way. You're like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound like right. And then,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's something revealed in the last in the end credit scene, and it took me by surprise. I literally wrote the same thing down in my notes that I wrote down in my notes for Captain Marvel, because you can't, it's hard to trust them. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know, because because going into Captain Marvel, knowing what we knew, we thought it was going to go one way, and it didn't.
Right.
And this is still seemingly going that way, but at the same time, given an event that we both know about and Marvel comic fans know about, that came after Civil War.
Right.
Could still potentially be done in a way,
or at least adapted, right?
Yeah,
like kind of like how we saw an adaptation of Planet Hulk made part of the Ragnarok story.
Right. Now, at this point, I'm not entirely sure how they would do it, but actually, I take that back. That's a lie. I do know exactly how they could do it, but yeah, it's something that's up in the air now. So whether we're going to get that or not, or whether they're going to completely keep going down that road, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Listen, I had a lot of fun. I don't, I think my personal hang up on the movie was a direct result of literally coming directly off a rewatch of Endgame. Like I had rewatched Endgame Sunday night,
Right.
and Tuesday night I'm already watching Far From Home. So any feeling that I had of, you know, I'm waiting for like the big explosion, the big set piece, the big this, and it not coming and being maybe a little disappointed or being wanting, I kept reminding myself, no, this is a Spidey movie. This
Right.
is, you know, it's more, it's going to have more than an Ant-Man movie, but it's but it's still a Spidey movie at heart.
Mhm.
So that's something that I had to remind myself of.
Yeah, I wouldn't think of it much of anything about that, because and even going into it, I was like, okay, well, we know the pieces that are involved. I didn't think, and we knew, you know, like I said, there was going to be some involvement with a couple of people here and there, but I was like, well, I didn't think we're going to take it that big within the scope of the story, you know, with what they did with it, which I thought was well done. Like, you know, Mysterio being, you know, the character, and that stuff with the effects and all that, just to get into that real quick, was well done.
Oh yeah,
Like that was just like, okay, this is totally capturing with Mysterio, how Mysterio kind of do things, sort of, you know, with the exception of maybe the introduction part. But actually, not take that back, probably would have. But and actually brings me to a question I'm not sure if I should even ask here.
go ahead.
Because given the way things ended, and you know, outside of the end credits or mid credit scene, like, what was I gonna say? Was that who we thought it was, or was that? I don't know. There was a part of me thinking like, okay, was that OG Mysterio, or was that an actor playing the OG Mysterio, and there's somebody else that, you know, given what happened, is going to come into it and actually be?
That's going to be a wait and see, you know,
Exactly.
because it's a credit to Michael Keaton's performance as the Vulture, where he doesn't. Here's a spoiler for Homecoming, right? He doesn't die, right? He
Right.
doesn't die, like as opposed to so many other great Marvel villains. He actually makes it out of his movie and can be reused in another movie.
But realistically, given how it looked,
Right. It's but there's more. I was about to say there's more leeway with this particular character.
yes.
I-
And again, as we said, there's been multiple versions. So
Right. I think there's more leeway with this character. Hell, he had a whole crew, and the crew could pick up where he left off.
and that's which brings that. I'm glad you said that, because that, going back to what was alluded to earlier, the way they put that whole crew in with past
How they tied them in, yeah.
that was beautifully done.
Yes.
Which especially that first guy, because we're like, okay, I vaguely even remember that dude from the first Iron Man movie. Actually, I don't remember that dude.
I don't remember his face. I remember what he did when they went back to the scene. I was like, "Are you serious? They got the same actor?"
Right. So I was like, huh, okay. And like then as they went through that whole scene of you know, showing everybody and
Right. I mean, talk about, I was going to say, talk about, you know, like it kind of brings back into a point I made that I probably read somewhere, but you got to credit the MCU for making casual movie fans understand what it's like to be following a comic book
totally.
universe.
Yes.
Where there are little things that tie in, right,
Mm-hmm.
from
Oh, yeah.
other movies and other stories.
Yeah, and you know, especially like, you know, coming out of Infinity War, especially at the end of that, spoilers for Infinity War, where at the funeral, I was like, who's that person?
Oh, Endgame,
yeah, Endgame. He was like, oh right, that person ties back to this one movie that.
Like, that was hard, though. That one was hard.
True, you're right,
That
but
was hard because you're just like, who's this rando? You know, like.
well, I picked it up though, because it was like, okay, if they're doing this the way I think they are, and I'm not saying that, you know, I'm just smoke in the room, but I was like, okay, everybody in the scene that they're showing is significant for a reason,
Right?
And this one dude was like, okay, wait, there's a movie that wasn't represented, and And sure enough, that was him. Because after I looked back and checked and see if that was who that was, I'm like, oh yeah, there you go.
Right. So, all right. So I think that's, we've definitely done a good job of not spoiling the hell out of Far From
Home. One more thing. And I will always love you.
I cringed when I heard that.
I did
at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, the spoiler. That's not that big.
That's not a big spoiler at all. It's right at the beginning of the movie.
But I was like, because and I don't know if you were,
it's not the first song that you think of.
Exactly. I'm like, where is this going? And then they started going through right after that. I'm like, oh, okay.
Right. So I cringed. I was like, oh no, what are they doing with this song? Like, I respect that song, but I hate that song because it's so overplayed.
I mean, it was over. Yeah, it was played a whole lot.
Oh my god,
in the original version, but but at the same time, you know what? Good use of it, and that aside, good use of it for what they use it for. But still, was like, oh, really?
Right.
Like that song is older than half the cast, half the main cast. Like, really?
Oh my god.
But anyway, so yeah, I think we rung it out.
Sure. You put I was gonna say
there are implications that they're seemingly presumably, I know there are articles about like, hey, did they introduce another villain, which quite possibly there could be, and actually I found out something about a villain, a classic Spidey vision that I didn't really know about that was in the comics, but recently.
Who's that?
Chameleon. There was an article suggesting that because of one of the people that shows up in the movie that doesn't really do anything but is around, someone was suggesting that could have been Chameleon, but the movie does nothing to
substantiate that, right?
Exactly.
That's
because the character's name was the same name as Chameleon. So
really,
yes. So just let whoever wrote the article to suggest that maybe that was Venom, but they didn't really do the legwork.
Yeah, but if they use the same name.
Yeah, but there was nothing suggesting one way. If you saw this guy, you would think immediately like this guy's up to no good. But again, they never really did anything to substantiate it.
Dmitry.
Yes.
Smerdyakov.
Which so what I found out was, and now it makes sense from Hunted as to why.
Oh wait, all right. Spoiler bill again.
Yes.
Real spoilers this time. 3, 2, 1. That's a Shield agent guy.
Yes.
Oh, shnikes.
But again, they don't do anything to suggest.
Wait, did they actually give his last name? Is it on the screen?
They never did. That's what I'm saying. They didn't do any, and there was nothing suggesting anyway outside of what he was just doing that. But he just looked like a bad guy.
Right. That's weird.
So, but yeah, like somebody. I saw the article on, and I don't know if I have it in the lineup or not. But somebody was like, "Hey, could they have introduced him?"
Wow.
And like I said, we know one way or another there's probably going to be another Mysterio, given what happened in that one scene.
Can you imagine if they pull that off and all of a sudden he's a chameleon?
But usually, yeah. But that's the thing. They usually play their hand a little bit. They would usually do something suggested. Like this guy didn't really do anything to suggest one way or the other. So if they did, that would be definitely something they would. Yeah, they would have definitely did something like they. I don't know. That would be. It felt like kind of a spoiler because at the same time I was looking at they didn't do anything.
Right.
He was there.
Right. I got you.
Normally, they would have at least been like showed him with a next to a mask or something, or or giving him some lines. I don't even think he didn't give but 1 or 2 lines.
Right, something like get on the bus, get off the bus, something like that.
Right.
Go that way.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I believe you. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. So there was that stuff. I think that was it though, and. So yeah. Anyway, let us move on.
Right. I was going to say just to wrap the discussion. I like this movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie, but it's because I had to reset my expectations. And I joked about it. I was talking to my sister about it, and she's like, "Yeah, because that's exactly what happened. You came out of Endgame, kind of expecting like these big, huge set pieces, and
expected to go up as opposed to coming back down for a minute.
And it was it was a process. I had to actually work my way through that to really enjoy the movie. But I enjoyed the hell out of this movie because, the cast as a whole gives a great performance. I still buy Tom Holland as a young teenager. Unlike Tobey Maguire, unlike Andrew Garfield, like you still buy it.
Yeah,
he does such a good job of doing that, of performing that particular role.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? There was another thing. Speaking of that, the only thing that kind of bothered me, outside of them renaming the Snapping, was them calling it the Blip. And two, the Peter Tingle.
Well, what's funny about that, and I'm glad you brought that up, is that there were plenty of people complaining previous to this movie that the spider sense hadn't been really explored, and I think Feige came out and says, "No, we really haven't," because
the only other time they really let it out there was Infinity War, actually.
Right, so it's sort of developing, and it's been developing over the course of these movies. And but that's kind of what people need to understand, is that at this point, he hasn't been Spider-Man that long.
Right.
And I don't remember, and this makes me want to dig out my legit PDFs of the Amazing Spidey run and go through and see how long it took them to develop the spider sense as like a real capability. It was in his first appearance where the car comes and he has to jump on the wall.
Right.
But in terms of like actually understanding it, that's another, that's something else.
Right. Which I feel like it wasn't too much longer than that when it is. But yeah, you're right. That
it makes you wonder, right? So, but it's something that they were developing over time, and they actually made a big deal of it in this movie.
Right. Oh yeah, that was a significant part where it came into play. It doesn't still suggest that he understands it, but it still comes into play.
And he's making better use of it.
Right.
It's it's almost like I was gonna say it's almost like the Venom blast that Miles had in Into the Spider-Verse, right?
Yes.
Where he needed to figure out how to focus it.
Yes.
So
and even the spider sense in that movie to a certain extent.
Right.
Yeah.
But but in terms of like the way to activate it, like he actually needed to figure out a way to make use of it, to actively make use of it, as opposed to just like the general like get out of the way.
Right.
So, all right, cool. I listen. I enjoyed this. What's that?
Would you go and see it again?
Yes, because a buddy of mine is probably gonna make me go and see it again because he was out of town, like my usual. What's that? Yeah,
make you go. Right.
He was out of town when when it was released. So
right.
So we usually have a crew of people going to the Marvel movie, so we'll probably get that together again, even though I think everyone will have seen it already.
Which actually brings up something that's on a slight related note. There's rumors of Regal Cinemas doing like a movie pass type situation, possibly at the end of the month.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw an article from the other day. I mean, Adam has their not Adam. What's the other thing that has the A+?
AMC.
AMC, thank you. AMC has theirs, so if it's rumors to be true, it's going to happen. And speaking of rumors, actually going back to rumors quick, not so much of a rumor, but the trailer, once again, as tends to happen, red herring going around, mostly. But go ahead and say that right now, which is kind of a bummer. Like, I think we might have made sense over beforehand, but we didn't see that on the camera.
About
because there was some stuff that happened in the trailers that didn't.
Red herring. Yeah, we mentioned that. Yeah.
Yes,
definite red herring. All right. So we're going to move on to our first comic of the week. Luckily, it's not a light week, but it's definitely not like the most heavy reading week.
So we can breeze through.
Right. We can kind of adapt. No, but we can kind of adapt our show to talking about Marvel movies as well. Sometimes we would, if we were going to go deep spoiler, and we could do deep spoiler if like Tim all of a sudden jumps on and says, "I want to talk Far From Home." We could go deep spoiler into a Treasury edition for Far From Home if he wants to.
Yeah, we'll see where they are with that.
Right. So we're going to talk about Immortal Hulk number 20.
Yes, and the long-running series of wow, this thing is kind of crazy, but still really good.
It's pretty insane.
Yeah. So, after the events of last issue, no surprise, Hulk gets himself back together. We didn't know how; they didn't really go into it, and I think they're at this. Al Ewing's probably at this point is like, you know what, we don't need to really.
We don't need to see the reformation. We don't need to see how it just happened.
Guess what? He's immortal. Like, get used to this. Just
right.
Keep going. But we still see the heart out there. So apparently, and I think one of us might have called that though. I feel like one of us might have called the fact that it was like, yeah, that's not going to be anything, but just going to be the thing that helps put him back together again or something because Betty ate his heart. So,
well, what's funny is that they mentioned so just very quickly, as you mentioned, the Hulk comes back with a vengeance, and basically, and spoiler bell because we really are going to have to spoil this issue. Yeah, the Hulk comes back with a vengeance from literally being like ripped apart into little itty bitty pieces.
And there's a lot more like going on in this issue.
Right. Yeah, there's some brutal stuff going on in this issue. The Hulk and the Harpy are basically able to work together. And do their best to incapacitate this latest form of the Abomination.
Even going so far as to rip it off who in the world is that, which we still don't know yet, which I guess we're going to find out next issue or two. Who was in that, which is weird because they made it like, okay, that's an amalgamation of a couple of people, not necessarily a person, but they ripped out somebody, which is still weird. Like, wait, how do you rip off a person from another person or from a thing? Was it turned into the thing and not necessarily,
I know.
Or I guess maybe that was the deal and they just made it. I'm thinking too much of it.
Honestly, I think it was a very weird thing. It's like there's magic involved in this.
Oh yes. So in the beginning of the issue, we found out that gamma is more than radiation. It's magical energy force type of situation going on. Apparently,
it's also. I think what they made clear was that yes, gamma radiation, is like a particular wavelength, along the spectrum, but
right.
There's also certain aspect of it that comes from this particular dimension that acts as magical energy, and this is what empowers the few people that don't die in gamma bomb accidents, and that don't, that get passed on this particular power, and the character, who we're still not sure who this character is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is telling Bruce Banner this information, and name drops, but doesn't name drop the other gamma powered heroes.
Yeah, I didn't like part of it. So Banner's quote unquote dad is running down the other gamma powered people. Some we've seen. Actually, wait. Well, because that was an allusion to She-Hulk.
Yeah. Right.
But I couldn't remember if Amadeus, who does get mentioned later on, if was one of those ones he mentioned.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who the Quack was.
That was Doc Samson.
Doc Samson. That's what I thought. I thought so.
Yeah, because there was no one that couldn't think. Or it could have been no, I think it was Doc Samson, but because it could have been Lankowski, but he's.
I thought that was the copycat because I thought that's.
Yeah, then exactly. See, that was the other thing. It was like, matter of fact, because they even said, because when he got introduced into the story, like issues ago, you're right. He was like trying to
mimic what happened to Bruce Banner.
Yeah. So technically, you're probably right. That is him.
So what we have is, and we didn't want to spoil that entire part because that was important reading.
But it's still good to read.
Right. If you're keeping up, that this is important stuff right here, right at the beginning of the book, before the Hulk makes his appearance, I don't remember if they have a group name, but this is General 14's or 14's strike group or force. Like I don't want to call them Hulkbusters. I don't think they've ever called themselves that.
No, I don't think they would.
But they're a version of the Hulkbusters, in the sense that they are built to be capable of taking on these gamma-powered superhumans. And
although they seem to be singular in their objective at this point. Because they've been going strictly after Banner and the Hulk, as opposed to the other gamma-powered people. Well, that they didn't already use in one way, shape, or form. So, but like I said, She-Hulk gets mentioned. Amadeus gets mentioned. Banner's mom, quote unquote.
Right. We're still not sure what's going on.
Let's get into that, and we already talked about Hulk and Harpy kind of coming to their little understanding, and whoever that is gets ripped out of the Abomination, and including now. I should have asked you this beforehand. Do we know who that is at the very end of the book? I think you might have said something about that, but
hold on,
because this is a person that was pretty much narrating or saying something throughout the course of the book.
Yeah, I don't think we know who that is yet.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. And then this person happens to show up in whatever this other realm is.
This is going to be a read this is like a binge read or a trade read, because while you're losing some of the monthly, like, oh my goodness gracious, and where is this going?
Right.
I can totally see passing this on to someone and saying, look, read this in its entirety.
Especially definitely the first trade, because if that doesn't hook you, I don't know what else will.
Right. I wonder how long this is going to last. We're on issue 20.
He's made allusions to the fact that he could go a good minute with this.
That's fine by me.
Yeah, I'm fine with it, and like I said, there's people that still haven't really shown up, and especially on either side of the thing. Like She-Hulk showed up like one time with the Avengers. And I don't remember what happened in the issue, or at least to that anyway. But like Amadeus didn't show up. Like some version of Rick Jones has been mentioned, if not shown up. If whatever happens in the next issue, there's other Gamma Bio people. There's Gamma villains that hadn't really shown up yet, which is slowly but surely. I'm sure there's at least one more that should probably show up.
Right.
In one way, shape, or form. So again, we hadn't gotten the UFOs, so maybe they're going to show up at some point with their mind and the Hulk history.
Right. And you got to give the art team a shout out. I know Al Ewing is doing, I think, the lion's share, but you got to give the art team a shout out. Joe Bennett and a crew of inkers on this particular issue really set the tone for the series, and the look. The look specifically of the immortal Hulk being not the Hulk that you were used to.
Right, and even when they mess with him a little bit with the different personalities, they tend to make changes that say, okay, to distinguish one from the other.
Right.
The others. So good job for the creative team all the way around.
I can't, I'm looking forward to seeing. To understanding where this is all going, but I'm still enjoying the ride.
And I feel like even when we get there, there's probably still more that could be like, well, sure, you got this part, but like
agreed.
some more to deal with. If not, whenever this gets to wherever it goes.
Agreed.
Time. I'm fine with that. Next up, speaking of the wind in your sails, or whatever I said earlier, which would have been a perfect segue. Arrow #1.
All right, so this is a character that has been introduced to the Marvel Universe proper through their new Agents of Atlas War of the Realms miniseries. So I was looking at your notes just now, and you kind of picked up on the same things I did. It's an interesting start to a previously published story, which has been adapted by Greg Pak for American audiences. I'm interested to see where they take this character's wind powers. Is she more powerful than the wind parter of Captain Planet? Wind!
You know what? I there's part of me that thought about that part, but keeping with the universe, I'm like, Storm?
Oh yeah, well that's what I was gonna say. So the next thing I noted is she just one portion of Storm's,
right,
or even Thor's capabilities?
Right.
So we're not sure yet to see. We still have a lot left to learn about this character and what this character can do, because it's a power set that's a subset of a lot of characters' power, a lot of the more powerful characters' powers.
Yes.
And,
especially the more popular ones too, especially, yeah.
Right. So it's kind of weird to see this character have her main power being the subset.
Well, I mean, but to be fair, we also have popular characters that arguably are the same way. Human Torch,
like the electrical people. Yeah,
the electric folks, exactly. So it's just that this particular power set is not necessarily one that would normally come by itself,
right.
Unless you're an airbender, which I said in my notes. I wasn't going to bring that up, but at the same time, it's kind of hard not to.
Now I'm like, wait a second, do the new Agents of Atlas guys have an Earth guy? Because then they could put together Captain Planet, because they have water.
Or airbender or benders at that point, because it's like so.
Oh wait, do they have a fire? Yeah, they do have a fire person.
Yeah, that was the Pele person.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, she could just double for Earth too. But anyway,
possibly. Yeah.
But
So,
I like the backup story in this.
Yeah, which was kind of weird to me, because I'm like, okay, this is going to be an origin story, and it was looking at the way, and it was, but it wasn't for her. It was for one of the other people that was introducing New Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which kind of makes me wonder, like, wait, is this
New Agents of Atlas? Let's not get it.
I'm sorry, different group of people. Sorry, and that would be Wave.
Right.
She's getting a book also, right? Or no?
Nope.
Okay.
No, because what they're doing is, I think they're doing the previously established characters first. They're doing Swordmaster, Arrow. I think those are the ones who are getting books right now.
Oh, Swordmaster's getting a book? I didn't that part.
Yeah, Swordmaster's getting a book.
Huh, weird.
Because I think what they're doing is that they're adapting previously published work and translating it and adapting it for American audiences.
Yeah, except for they're not doing the one though, because he's gone. The Monkey King one.
Right.
But yeah, the group that's sticking around with the Agents of Atlas, you're right. So like I said, but yeah, the backup story was basically ended up being part one of the origin story of Wave, and Arrow does happen to be there, mind you.
Actually becomes part of the kind of the retelling of it.
You're right. So but it was still kind of weird. Like, wait, should you not have just devoted this to the character that this book is named after? But I don't know. Hey, that's Pop. He does his thing. So,
well,
but
I was going to say, I think part of it is them dealing with the previously published work too. So
right.
I guess they have to space it out.
Yeah. And since she's the one has her own, because I guess this is her book, they can kind of do that at any point if they choose to do that.
Right.
So. Yeah, it was a pretty good story. There was the art was seemed anime inspired.
Oh, definitely.
But I'm sure that was by choice. But it looks good. That's not nothing from because it looks great, clean and all that. Where this book is going to go, don't know. Like they're pretty much establishing her in her little part of the area. You do get some background information on her, which was a good thing for them to do. Like she's an architect and she built parts of Shanghai where she's built out of, and I don't know. There's a weird Spider-Man vibe also in all of that too. But in
the origin or in the
not necessarily in the origin, but when she was going along about her day and kind of traversing the city when she was trying to head to her date or whatever to give me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of that in that.
I gotcha. Well, the character benefits from being based in a big city.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of these characters that are based outside of the United States are meant to represent whole countries, and they don't necessarily have. Well, they probably do have a home base and a haunt, but they're generally meant to cover larger swaths of areas, large countries. So, like, oh, Wave is the hero of the Philippines, but wait, what about Triumph Division? Who are all these Filipino people?
Right, and they're
not all nurses. Oh no!
And they bring up they bring up Triumph Squad in the actually in both sections, don't they? No, just in the backup story.
Yeah, because apparently that's part of Wave story. So, but in any event, I like that they're giving you kind of a good bang for your buck with this book.
Yes.
So,
for a character that I believe started off in a video game. I'm not mistaken.
Right, you would know better than I. So,
but I did not play the game. I did play the game once, but I didn't play when she was introduced. But anyway, regardless. So yeah, it's neat. So we'll see how to keep up.
It's a good start. It's a good start.
Exactly. Got one?
I think the last book that we have in common is the Ms. Marvel Annual.
Okay, sure.
So we can just get that very quickly.
I thought you read Lois Lane. No, you didn't. Okay.
Nope. So
okay. Go for it.
I just wanted to, just real quick notes on it. It was kind of cool that Ms. Marvel uses some diplomacy to defuse some of, and spoiler alert, because actually no, he's on the cover, so it's not really spoiling anything.
Right.
Cull Urt, aka the Super Skrull, his long-standing animosity against the planet Earth. And I kind of like that after, this whole story of how I'm going to hatch a plot, and I'll let you go into how he hatches that plot and why.
And it wasn't even his plot. He was just approached by someone, which I thought that part was kind of funny.
Yes.
Because the illusions of another distinguished competition's character was very much there.
Mm-hmm.
Which was pretty funny. I'm like, well played.
Right.
But we know that person, and we should also definitely say that this was the first book, the first part of the Acts of Evil, aka Acts of Avengers 2,
right?
Event, and there was some Acts of Avengers all up and through this with that, given that person and how this came together. And I'm kind of curious if it's going to come up to be the same, which I don't know, given that this person who initially, well, one was in the previous event, and two is going to have a book coming out where they're going to be the quote unquote hero.
Right.
I kind of wonder if they would go back to
the well.
We don't know.
Can you imagine if this is just a kind of a tongue-in-cheek shot across the bow of the distinguished competition because of the DC long used what was it Flashman, right? Remember, was it the Stan Lee caricature that was the
Funky?
Yeah, the Funky Flashman. Thank you. I couldn't remember what his full title was.
Yeah.
So this is their version of the Funky Flashman, but he's going to be the character that's behind the acts of evil.
Yeah, there was definitely that. Yes.
We'll see. We'll see if that's the case.
Right, but at the same time, as we will find out in the news and a book that I have to talk about in a little bit, like they take from each other all the time. So it's not, and more recently, lately, but it happens a whole lot of time. Keep saying they keep playing for the same book, but anyway. So yeah, that was Miss Marvel's annual, like the Active Avengers, and I thought that other annual that came out this week was also a part of that, but I didn't read it, and I don't think it was.
What was it?
The Secret Warps one.
Oh, I don't
I
know.
don't think it was.
I didn't read it.
I didn't either. And plus, I hadn't read Secret Warps anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And I know and even at the back of the book, there was like, "Hey, the Punisher album, Punisher annual next week or whenever it is going to be the continuing saga of that."
Okay. All right. You want to throw out one more book each, and then we'll go into rapid fire?
Sure. Realistically, all these can go into the rapid fire except for Deceased number 3.
All right.
I am not a big zombie fan at all. So recent news kind of fell on deaf ears.
On your deaf ears, right?
Yes, and we'll get to that when we get to the news section.
Sure.
But that being said, I have been enjoying this book so far.
All right.
3 issues in. It's basically DC's versions of, a version of DC's zombies, you might as well, because Marvel zombies, and that's another story. That's another story that we got in the news. But played a little bit different. It's actually played a little more arguably seriously than Marvel Zombies did when it's an initial run. So basically, to recap a little bit, the anti-life equation, that's the dark side wanted it. He found a way to get it, but it ran amok. He ended up dying. Cyborg came back to Earth and spread the virus through technological means, and people started going crazy and infecting other people. Notably, one Batman ended up getting hit, and superheroes, and that's what the last couple of issues have been. In this one, we found out that we not found out, but a couple of other people get picked up on, like Ivy, who was going to meet the Joker to tell him off a little bit, ends up confronting him, who's already been zombified, quote unquote. Or they don't even, matter of fact, they go to length and say, no, these aren't zombies, these are something else, blah blah blah. But I'm just gonna, for simplicity's sake, I'm just gonna say zombies.
Okay.
And so humans or humanoids are running rampant, and this goes into the sea because we see Aquaman got affected and infects Tempest, and Mera has to kind of fight that off. And also at the same time, this was after finding out that Batman, thanks to Alfred, has spoiler alert, has been killed by Alfred because he was already infected and told Alfred to finish him off, which means that Damian, who is still mourning at this point, is inheriting the Batman mantle earlier than he was expected to. So, but at this point, we're just getting that. But like I said, it's even telling you all of that. Oh, and Superman goes home to find out something happened. And Ivy goes bird hunting. But even knowing all of that, you should really, if you are so inclined, you should really check this out, because Tom Taylor's doing this. And if you liked Injustice, I think you will probably like this too. Like different stories, obviously,
sure.
But it is definitely an Elseworlds book. So if you enjoyed his stuff and what he did with Injustice, and I don't know where this one's going to go, but it's been good reading so far. And I'm not sure how long this is going to be. I should check that out. I think it's like 9. I'm not sure. I'll check that out, but it doesn't matter. So, but if you're so inclined, just check the fuck out because it's good.
Cool. All right. I will throw one more book out to speak yeah, someone I linked about. Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider number 10.
Mhm.
This was a sneaky potential click of the week for me. This is actually the surprise to me because I look at solicitations, but I don't look that closely sometimes. It was a surprise last issue of this volume, which sets up the new status quo for the character. It includes the switch to the new superhero code name that has been gradually introduced over time as part of the rebranding of the character.
She's still Spider-Gwen to me, damn it.
But it makes sense. But you know what's funny? They've done it at such a gradual pace that I think that more people are going to accept it because of that. And I like that. I like that they did it that way, that it wasn't just, oh, I'm just going to do this because I feel like it.
Right.
So it was definitely a gradual pace. I like that in this story. It's fun to see Gwen interact with the 616 Peter Parker, and with the status quo that doesn't permanently place her into the 616, but gives her plenty of room to grow as a character. I really like the way they wrapped this volume of Spider-Gwen up, knowing that Ghost Spider is literally right around the corner.
Right, because I believe, because going into the next one, I believe they said she was going to be back into the 616 on a
regular basis, right?
Right. So,
not a permanent basis, but a regular basis.
She's there. She's still going back and forth. Which I guess coming out of Spider-Geddon, did some folks lose that ability or something? I felt
She's the only one that's got it.
Okay, I thought Spider-Ham did, because didn't Spider-Man Annual mention something about that?
I think it was because of what was lost, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah.
All right.
I really want to catch up with this book because ever since that first volume was really good. I know both of us was reading, and then somewhere in that second volume, kind of.
Well, the first 3 issues were tough because they were Spider-Geddon related.
Right, and I think that's
if you weren't keeping up with the crossover, then it was tough hoeing.
And that's kind of hate when they do stuff like that, but at the same time, it's it happens in this.
It's to boost sales too, because they want you to read it by they want, if you're going to read the miniseries, you're going to have to pick that up.
Right.
I just wanted to add that Taka Miyazawa did some of the art of this issue. Had to trade with another artist, and the difference showed, unfortunately. So it's a little tough on the eyes for someone who got absolutely spoiled by Miyazawa. His art on Spider-Gwen in general. I think Miyazawa is going to be picking up on Ghost Spider, so that shouldn't be a problem.
And I would just like to say that what I forgot to mention earlier is that watching Spider-Man Far From Home kind of makes me want a Spider-Woman movie.
Spider-Woman with who?
Jessica Drew.
Gotcha.
I mean, I wouldn't mind a Gwen, but definitely Jessica Drew.
Gotcha.
Especially when the gliding thing. But anyway,
sure.
That side, back to this, and I guess we're rapid firing.
Here we go, spinning it up.
Rapid fire. I will go ahead and do mine. Lois Lane number 1. I enjoyed this book. But apparently, and I don't know if whatever controversy that was mentioned in this book actually happened in Superman or something. But this is basically Lois being the intrepid reporter that she is, the dogged intrepid reporter that he is, but also under a little bit of controversy because there was a picture of her kissing Superman, which, if you know anything about what's going on in the comics now, she's married to him, but people don't know that at large in that universe. So so there was an interesting conversation that kind of streamed out of some real world stuff, but at the same time, she's following a lead on a case that she got from someone else, and apparently the question is her deep throat. Although if you see when the question comes in, or it looks like Rorschach from The Watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
You can see later on that it is a question, and I believe we can pretty safely say which. I I feel like we can pretty safely say which question this is because I think there was a question.
Oh
What book were we talking about? It was a DC book, obviously, but we were talking about a book where I think Doug was, where the question showed up, and wasn't really sure which version of the question it was, because it seemed like it was one way, but there was something suggesting another. This one kind of seemed like it was one way.
Right. I know what you're talking about.
So that's neither here nor there. But the fact that she's basically.
Justice League, I think.
I probably was.
Yeah.
But so Lois Lane has an informant. If you're of a certain vintage, you would know the name Deep Throat. And the question
not
is
just from the X-rated movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no!
I was actually not going to go there, but thank you. I'm glad you did. So yes, don't look that up. But so yes,
free to look that up, but just with the parents' consent.
Or if you're of age, you don't need no consent. But yeah. But what we're thinking, Watergate version of Deep Throat, and again, if you're of a certain vintage, you would probably know something about that because I'm pretty sure not many people know about that. So there was a little bit of that kind of intrigue going in this first issue, and again, there's a little bit of real world, parallels that get talked about here. But it was outside of that, it was a pretty good issue. I like. I'm thinking this is a mini, if I'm not mistaken. But it starts off somewhere, and then at the end of it, she gets in folks' face, and she's Lois Lane. Now, the one nice thing I saw in this, and I don't know if this was a common thing before because my DC is really, really, really spotty, but Lois's penchant for misspellings gets brought up in the course of this, which I know of from Superman the movie.
It's been so long since I watched.
Because there was a part of that, and she's calling Clark Farm Boy, not Smallville, as she tends to in the movies. Right. But nevertheless, hey, at this point they're married, so it didn't really. That's a smarter point, but you can still see the thing. So yeah, but that gets brought up during the course of this issue, and her battle with Spellcheck, and I thought with which I thought was a pretty interesting read, and like I said. For me, I know that from Spellcheck part aside comes from Superman the movie where she's famously needs help misspelling something, even though she's a journalist. So that part was kind of funny. But yeah, like I said, you really wouldn't know what to expect out of a Lois Lane book, but it actually it works out. Transformers #8 is my next book. And I will say, just like I said the last time the Transformers came out, which is only a couple of weeks ago, now that I think about it. This is the last issue. I didn't get a physical copy, but if you're watching the video, I am holding up a copy of issue 7, this is issue 8 that came out this week. But it comes with a copy of it comes with a booster pack for the Transformers trading card game, just like this last issue did. So if you're also interested in Transformers, the trading card game, you should go pick that up because a $4 book with a $5 pack in with a $5 booster pack in it is pretty good value.
There you go.
Even if you don't read the book. Although, and I will say again, I wish they had packaged it with the first couple of issues of this run because it would make way more sense to do it than the halfway in the story where not really people are going to know what's going on unless you've been reading the issue book. As far as what goes on in the book, Cyclonus gets into a fight, which apparently he's made a vow at some point not to fight. He got other bots in his head. There's some intrigue going on because Megatron, surprise, is hatching a plot, and he goes to see his mentor, which means we finally get to meet the Termagex, which I still don't like that name.
Okay.
But we finally see that bot in person, and he goes to see her, and they talk for a little while. There's a nice little Starscream dig, which is always welcome. And and then Megatron goes off to start off on whatever plan he's hatching, which I still don't necessarily. This is a reboot, and I still don't really know if this is set in a specific place. And on the other side of this, the investigation is still going on because there was a couple of bots that got killed early on in the story, which again, like I said, would have been better if those booster packs had come earlier than this, so that people can kind of try to latch on to the story if they were going to do so. But anyways, my last book is Star Wars Target Vader #1. Short and sweet. Darth Vader is looking for this group called the Hidden Hand. Maybe not to be confused with the hand on the hand version of ninjas that we know and love.
Or the foot.
Or yeah, exactly. Or those either. But apparently this is some group that are, well, obviously if Vader's after them, they're against the Empire, but they're apparently stealing weapons and selling them to the rebels, and Vader's tasked with finding them and getting rid of them. But at the same time, this same group hires a cyborg bounty hunter to go after Vader, hence the name Target Vader. And this cyborg is kind of a mix of Han Solo and Jonah Hex. And yes, he does shoot first. So and the group that gets to go after Vader, unbeknownst to both sides, gets picked out in this one, including one familiar Dengar of bounty hunter fame, which he seems to be showing up in a good bit of papers during this time frame. Which, speaking of time frame, I'm not entirely sure when this is set. But you can pick a plot during, obviously somewhere in the middle trilogy, or between episode 3 and somewhere in between the original trilogy. And it also starts off like Batman 89, which, people running from someone, and Vader ends up being, I'm Batman, except for he doesn't do that. Which is always just kind of funny. But if you read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And that is it for me.
Alrighty. For my rapid fire books, I'll start with Justice League #27. This is a potential click of the week. I'm not spoiling this at all because I know that Roddy Cat is endeavoring to catch up. So we get some really helpful narrative exposition in this. To help us figure out what this Apex Predator thing is about. That is the title of the story. This is of the story arc. This is part 2 of the Apex Predator story, and part 1 did not establish much of anything with regard to the name of the arc of the story. So it's informative. I'll put it that way, and I'm honestly pleasantly surprised that Snyder is doing this so well on Justice League.
And it's also somewhat, I think we discussed this earlier, somewhat of a tie to Year of the Villain, right?
Oh yes, but this is all because I think the entirety of the books being published by DC are being tied into Year of the Villain. So, next up is Savage Avengers #3. There's really not much to say about this. The Savage team assembles, but despite their best efforts, it all goes bad. When I say that, I mean Kulan Gath, the sorcerer who is trying to do stuff, actually succeeds. So, but we'll see how that goes because we have a cliffhanger ending. And last but not least is Uncanny X-Men #21. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this X-Men fan is still slogging his way through this last run of Uncanny X-Men to see how Rosenberg finishes up this run before Powers of X and House of X. It's House of X, right?
Yes.
Right.
House of X. And I hear you like killing women.
I'm sorry?
I hear you like killing women.
Who? Rosenberg?
Yeah.
He just likes characters in general.
Okay.
Sure. No, I mean he killed off a dude in War of the Realms, Uncanny X-Men #3.
Right. No, I'm saying that because there's some hubbub, not necessarily hubbub, but just some mention online. I was like, yeah, he likes killing women and people of color. Now, I mean, I'm not saying I believe that or not, but it's DC things.
I gotcha.
Like generally, I like Rosenberg's work, so I'm not saying one way or the other.
Yeah, an interesting. I just about the story itself. There's actually an interesting development in this issue, where Emma Frost does something telepathically that you have to figure that Charles Xavier had to at least have considered doing at one point.
What did he watch him at 9?
It's in that vein. It's definitely in that vein. So you would think that he would have at least considered it, but to know that Emma Frost pulls it off with some help, it's kind of an interesting development.
How many more issues we have left in this? And it's not. And again, it's Emma Frost. That's not that big of a surprise that she would do something that's slightly unethical, potentially.
I do not know.
Because I know, yeah, because we're coming into July, and I know Hickman's run starts this month. Which, by the way, if you haven't read Tim Dogg's stuff leading into Hickman's run, you should go check that out on TBR.
It's finishing, apparently, according to Rosenberg's Twitter account. Uncanny X-Men number 21 is the penultimate issue, so there's one left.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So it's only going to 22.
Right, yeah, because I think Hickman starts at the end of the month, if not the week after. Yeah, or they might be starting to end around the same time because I can't remember Uncanny's been bi-weekly, right? Yeah. So probably by the time the next one come up, the Powers of X or one or both of those books should be coming out. Cool.
Alrighty. So, clicks of the week, huh?
Yep, I guess so. And we already got one, which, you know what? Thank you.
Sorry, I played that over what you were saying.
No, do it again. That was my fault. I stepped on it. I was gonna say we got one click, which comes from Dirt, which I still kind of wonder if he's pulling this out of behind. No, I'm just kidding. Stop. His pick is Midnight Mystery, Volume 2, Number 1, City of Ghosts, and he says it's an oversized, extra pages event that not only continues the threads from Volume 1. But lays that foundation for a new story. Our protagonist has grown after the first volume, and the threats are bigger and better. It ends on a cliffhanger, which apparently he's a little miffed about. That really makes me desperate for the next issue. The art is still stylized in a great noir-tuned Batman the Animated Series style that I love. This is Dirt talking. For a $1.50 book, it is a tough book to beat. And that is his correct click.
Alrighty.
I think
I don't know if Tim put one in.
He did not, which is why I'm about to, but I think he's probably asleep by now. I don't know. But while he's doing that, you can go ahead and get yours.
I think I actually have a couple of surprise potential clicks of the week. Among the books I read, Justice League 27. Mortal Hulk number 20, even Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider number 10 was, surprisingly heartfelt. But I think I'm going to go with Immortal Hulk number 20 because it's a book that I look forward to reading every time it comes out, and this was no exception to that rule. This was I can't say that it was fun to read. That's the funniest part. That's generally my go-to reason for picking a click of the week, but it's such a well-told story, and it's leading us down paths that we're not used to as superhero fans and as Incredible Hulk fans as well. It's one thing to see the Hulk turned into a gladiator a la Planet Hulk, but this is something completely off the beaten path. And I give Al Ewing and Joe Bennett and the rest of the art team a ton of credit for making this a repeat contender for Click of the Week each and every issue that comes out.
Yeah, that was one thing we forgot to mention because among the many references that come about during the course of an issue of that book, I think they did allude to Planet Hulk and a few other things that happened, if I'm not mistaken. Because there was a couple of them I couldn't place, but it's like, okay, I remember. Sure. Okay, so that's yours. Still don't have Tim's, and mine will probably be. That's cute. Deceased number 3. I guess I'll go with that.
Wow. Okay.
Because weirdly enough, I read Ms. Marvel and I didn't like it, but I feel like I more skimmed it than actually read it.
Right.
And
there wasn't much to it, unfortunately. So.
There was that also, and Arrow was what it was. It was a nice beginning, but yeah, sure. There was a couple of good reasons week, despite the week not being like one packed or
right.
I would say eventful, but that's not true because there were a couple of event books. So yeah. And if Tim happens to come across one, which I don't think we will, then we'll bring that up if it should happen. But until then, first ad read.
First ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles, such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel, including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise, such as custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now, the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. So place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you. Go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. We'll get into.
I wonder if that stacks with what they got on the site. But anyway, now we're going to do exactly. And we start off as we tend to do every week with the cinematic news, starting off with Avengers Endgame, Fat Thor, quote unquote, nickname No More with official Marvel naming.
Okay, hold on. Let me look up the story.
Yes, yes. So apparently, henceforth and now and forever, or at least with whoever decides to do it, his name will be Bro Thor.
Oh!
I don't know who comes up with some of these names for this song, but stop.
I mean, did they vote amongst the interns?
So here we go. The name comes via the title of one of the extra features in the movie's home viewing version, which means in Avengers Endgames. So the mini documentary titled Bro Thor explores Thor's Big Lebowski transformation after he faced off with Thanos and misaimed his axe Stormbreaker to disastrous consequences. I don't think he misaimed. He meant to do anyway.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's got to be a little bit of deflection too. You got to give Thanos a little credit.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure he tried, but he done that at this point because
or at least trying to cleave the guy in half.
Right. Right. You should have. I mean, yeah, he should have aimed for the head, but at the same time, Anyway, so that is that, and if you want to call him Bro Thor or obviously Fat, I'm pretty sure the other reason why is probably because Fat Thor sounds like he's being shamed.
Right, and they can't use anything Lebowski related because of trademark.
Well, there is that also, so I get why they're giving him an official name. But yeah, there you go. Next up,
Zoe Saldana herself is not quite sure what's going to happen to Gamora after Endgame. So
I think we had an article about similar because there was an article saying that I think Tiger or somebody said that Gamora didn't make it snap, and I don't know if y'all talked about it on the. I doubt it, but yeah, I don't know if y'all talked about it on the Treasure Edition, but that was kind of up in the air for me because obviously at the end of Endgame, like Star-Lord number was going to set out to look for her, or at least seemingly, but at the same time, the way things went, it didn't seem like she survived the snap given her connection at the time. Even though she kept coming around.
Second snap, right?
Right.
Oh, the third snap, really.
Yeah. I mean, the second, I would say the second snap that matters because the second one was kind of off screen and was
right. But ultimately, I think it didn't apply to her because she makes an appearance as part of the group that is opposing Thanos.
Well, no, you're right, and I would agree with you at that. But since she initially came with him, and who's to say that the you know it's like the Dragon Balls. Who's to say if you're not specific enough that's gonna
because I mean Gamora makes it, but then she's the Gamora from our time. So not Gamora. What's her face?
Yes.
Nebula.
Yes.
Nebula.
Exactly. So yeah. So who knows? And
I wanted to call her the Blue Meanie. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean that fits.
That's what Tony Stark calls. That's what Iron Man calls her at one point. Like I think because of my recent rewatch of Endgame, I think he calls her Blue Meanie at the beginning of the movie when he's recording that message for Pepper in the helmet.
I believe I actually remember that. Yes. So yeah, so she's not sure, but I have. But that being said, I feel like there's a Guardians of the Galaxy #3. It's probably going to be subtitled "Search for Gamora." Maybe there'll be some whales. Those of a certain vintage would get that reference. But I feel like she's probably going to be around, even though for all intents and purposes, it seemed like she wouldn't be, despite how.
Right. That was the whole point of bringing her back.
Right.
She could be back in Guardians and kind of.
Even though they probably could have done the same for Black Widow, but hey, we're not gonna go about our show, Baka. Anyway, next up.
I was about to say, yeah, you're probably right, but all right, let's see here.
That's me.
Let me take let me take this one because I actually watched.
Oh yeah, that's right. Go ahead.
Right, so we're gonna switch places. And flip the order because I actually watched the Endgame re-release, and I'm going to give my
take the next one also because that may or may not have something to do with it depending on what you say.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I believe earlier, I was coming off. I watched Far From Home, coming off of a rewatch, my only rewatch. It's only my second time watching Endgame. And my rewatch was of the re-release, and the re-release has a couple of items included in the what's included with the re-release is as follows, and I'm not going to spoil what's in it really. We can just give you the facts. The facts of what what's included in the re-release is relatively widely known. We have first, the first thing that you notice is there's an intro to the movie by I forget which Russo brother it is, but it's not the one that has guest shots in the movie. It's the other one. We get a tribute to Stan Lee, which is it's almost worth the price of admission. It's so well done. It's I was touched by it. I was really glad that they had re-released the movie with that addition. Bear in mind that you have to sit through the entire movie to catch these additions. So you have the Stan Lee tribute. You also have an unfinished scene that was cut from the movie that involves the Hulk. And it really helps the story. I'm not 100% sure why they cut it. And it also has a great cameo appearance. I don't want to spoil exactly who it is, but for people of a certain vintage and people who are fans of action movies, they'll get this clue. Al, do you copy?
No, really?
Yeah. So, like the article that you referenced for our news has exactly who that is, but because that reference will figure out who was there, and I was so annoyed that they cut this from me. I was like, oh, man! So, that was pretty sucky. And the last thing that was there was the first scene from Spider-Man: Far From Home, which we just discussed, which was really kind of
And
it sets up Mysterio. That's about it.
Sure. Which I'm not sure why they needed to do that there, but okay, sure.
Just as a reminder, like you didn't know already, like they're not running the entertainment world. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind of a reminder, like, hey, once you finish this rewatch, make sure you go watch Far From Home, like you're now already going to do it anyway.
Wait, so basically they basically went back to what they used to do in the earlier movies and with those shorts. From what it sounds like. You remember how they used to do their shorts on the DVDs where like you would have like Coulson going after something, but it would be, something seemingly innocuous, but it's actually something that has to do with another movie going forward or something.
No, because it's literally the first scene that's in Far From Home. So,
right. But that's what I'm saying. But it's kind of likened to the shorts, is what I'm saying.
I guess.
They just cut out that piece and put it that way.
Right. No, I see what you mean. But ultimately, it's just that first scene.
Right.
And I really enjoyed the Stan Lee tribute because it involves a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff with a lot of the creative forces behind the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it has Stan talking in it, obviously. And the Hulk scene was just, especially because of the cameo, for, like I said, for people of a certain vintage, they'll really appreciate that cameo.
I'm curious about something because oh, okay, huh, interesting. I thought that person was no longer with us. Huh. Okay, never mind.
All right, not sure what Roddy Cat's referring to, but okay.
It's something you alluded to earlier. It's just don't worry about it.
All right.
So next up,
you can take the next one.
Okay, sure, I'll take it. Come on, click. Endgame's explanation of Captain America's timeline finally makes sense. So apparently, wait, where is this coming from? Because I thought this had to do with. So, okay, in an interview to promote the special theatrical. Okay, yeah. So Joe Russo went into detail about how his brother interpreted the fate of Steve Rogers and his effect on the MCU prime timeline. According to the director, Steve. You know what? Basically, you can read that for yourself. Something happened. They explained it. Something happened, and this is how that particular timeline makes some kind of sense. I won't go into it there. It's not really not much because this is one little paragraph that, if you want to get to the meat of it, but I'll take their word for it that it makes sense. Next up.
Gotcha. So, Tom Holland revealed the Into the Spider-Verse cameo that could have happened. So he revealed that it was pretty close that he would have had a cameo in Into the Spider-Verse.
So basically, he did I think he did something for Spider-Verse, but it got cut.
Okay.
And yeah, he just happens to mention that in an interview somewhere, basically. And I saw an article, or not an article, I saw a tweet with somebody which I wanted to smack the person talking about, well, he's already the version of Miles. I'm like, shut your face up. Just shut up.
He's just another version of a younger Peter Parker.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Like, no, he's not. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. I can't remember if what Holland is talking about is on Spider-Verse's stuff, extras. I don't remember seeing anything like that. But then again, I hadn't watched all the extras, so it's probably irrelevant at this point. But nevertheless, he talks about it, and there you go. Speaking of more between the two, Tom Holland's excited, and I don't know why they have it in quotes, to welcome Miles Morales into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So basically, I think from this self-same interview that Holland's cut into the Spider-Verse piece comes out of, he basically praises Shameik Moore's performance of Miles, but he also goes on to say, but I'm just excited to introduce Miles into our universe one day. I think that's going to be really good. And yes, worth noting that Miles has not leapt to the cinematic universe stage outside of in animated form, so therefore he's not in the MCU.
Well, he's referring to the MCU.
Well, you know what I'm saying, but yes,
we don't know how old this particular nephew of the erstwhile Prowler.
Well, yes, that's right. That is right, because Homecoming did have one Uncle Aaron, and and he who also mentioned that his nephew Miles. Yes, so yes,
right, so we could still be several years away.
Correct, but he's not. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, Shameik Moore is just a little too old to pull off another a reboot of a young.
And he's not suggesting that Shameik Moore was the one doing it. He was just saying that his role in Spider-Verse was good.
Right. They definitely need to cast that. It's for a young actor. The same way they did with Holland.
Right. And I would imagine if it keeps going, and Holland gets older, because I know there's another article which I don't think I have, saying that Holland said that he wouldn't mind doing, playing Spider-Man until he's old Spider-Man.
Well, listen, he can pull it off.
Well, yeah, and that could be a good minute. So
because he can go all the way into like graduate school Spidey, and beyond. So good for him. Talk about getting in at the right time. I mean, let's be honest. Before we move on to our next story, there's a couple of if it wasn't for the fact that actors sometimes get not tired of playing the same characters, but maybe typecast. That's sort of what the problem with these recurring roles is.
Mm-hmm.
They're like Iron Man. Granted, he was already on the older side when he was cast, but he could have kept going. More so with Captain America, really.
Yeah.
And
there's no saying that he couldn't come back as a
exactly. But in terms of just continuing to have movie after movie.
Right.
I don't think Chris Evans is going to get out of shape anytime soon. You know what I mean? That's kind of why Hemsworth got in at the right time too.
Right. And giving some of the stuff that I know Holland's doing now, because I don't know if your showing had it, but no, wait, actually, I might have been before. It's actually a thing, because there was because he's doing that movie, the other animated movie with Will Smith, and where he's playing some kid scientist or something. I think it was Spies in Disguise or something like that. I don't know if you saw that.
I did not.
Yeah, but Tom Holland's in that, and that's coming out relatively soon. And I know he's supposedly in the running, or might already have it, to play young Nathan Drake in an Uncharted movie.
Right, that I knew about.
Yes, so I don't think he's worried about being. Hopefully, he shouldn't be worried about being typecasted anytime soon. I would think. So he's got So he's definitely got a couple of, and I think he's probably got a little bit more than that coming down the line outside of the next Spider movie.
Sure.
So, and Zendaya's out there doing other stuff. She's got the Euphoria thing that's people are talking about nowadays. So I don't think either one of them are gonna be worried about typecasting anytime soon. But anyway, moving right along to the news. Speaking of more Tom Holland, hey, look, Spider-Man: Far From Home. Of course, there was going to be some stuff, surrounding it. So come on, bear with it. Tom Holland. Wait, actually, this is you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll do this one. Tom Holland and Jake Gyllenhaal dressed as the Roxbury guys at the Spider-Man premiere. So they traded in their usual red carpet couture for outfits that reference Saturday Night Live's Roxbury guys, nightclub characters made famous in the 90s by comedians Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan.
What is love?
Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh.
Oh yes, I don't know. There may be a picture of it, but some strange reason it's not pulling up for me, so it just doesn't matter. But yeah, that's
Yeah, you know what we're talking about. You could find it.
what you should know unless you were born in the 90s. But yeah. So next up, Spider-Man: Far From Home swings in for record Tuesday opening. So yeah, guess what? It made money first day out. Go figure. So it says box office analysts are predicting the final movie in the Marvel. The final movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Phase 3 to gross between 40 million and 48 million Tuesday. So since July 4th falls in the middle of the week, Far From Home opened on Tuesday when most blockbuster films open on a Thursday night, Friday night. Which is basically, okay, guess what? That's why we're here tonight, folks. Sort of.
Mm-hmm.
We could have also taken a night off for whatever holiday it is, 4th of July.
Right.
So, but anyway, but yeah, so yeah, that movie started doing some numbers day one. Go
right, and they're still at it. They're going to be at it all this weekend. So,
yeah.
I'm gonna.
So it got a couple of head start on what it would normally have done if had it not been a holiday week.
Right. Right. I mean, this is what happens when the 4th of July falls in the middle of the week. If I'm not mistaken, Homecoming also opened on a Tuesday? Or no, wait. Which Spider-Man was it that opened? Because it's a previous iteration of Spider-Man also opened on a Tuesday.
Was it 3?
And was the previous record holder for Tuesday Tuesday openings.
Then that couldn't have been 3. Maybe that was Amazing, one of the Garfield movies or something. I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Possibly. I mean, it's in the. If you open the, it's probably in the story. So,
it is actually not.
Well, that's surprising.
Oh wait. Hold on. No, you're right. Ironically, the film that holds the current record for Tuesday is The Amazing Spider-Man.
There you go.
The first Garfield one. That was kind of right. Taking in 35 million.
There you go.
This movie was also opened in July. Yeah. So
and the last time the 4th of July kind of interfered with an opening like that. So the next 3 stories we actually already talked about.
Kind of, sort of. And actually, I will go far as to put in, speaking, because one of the other stories mentioned this before going further. And I don't think I have that article in here, but Tom Holland said he wouldn't, in one of the other stories, that he wouldn't mind doing, he'd be open to doing a movie with Garfield and Maguire.
Okay.
Spider-Man, which, yeah, that'd be kind of a Spider-Verse situation there. So if that happened. Anyway, so yeah, like you said, we don't really have to really go through these next couple because, this talks about the mid-credit scenes.
And the end credit scene, yeah.
Yeah, and the end credit scene, and what I mentioned earlier about a villain that could have possibly have been
introduced
in the book, but I personally don't think it is, but it doesn't matter. So the next one we'll get to, still Tom Holland related, is that's Tom Holland wants Spider-Man to swap bodies with Wolverine in a short film. So Tom Holland's been saying a whole lot lately.
Listen, he's feeling, I was about to say, feeling himself right now because he's really stepping into the forefront of the MCU. Speaking of a movie that's going to be part of the next phase of the MCU, though, set photos from the Black Widow movie may reveal when it takes place in the MCU timeline.
Yes.
So, this movie is probably Marvel's worst kept secret.
Well, and it's also the one that people have been wanting since Avengers was.
Right. I was about to say, it's actually currently shooting in Budapest.
I know, right? Like if that's not beautiful, I don't know what.
Right on the nose.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Expect Hawkeye to be there, but also don't expect Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury character because if I'm not mistaken, I did see an article. I didn't put it in the lineup, but there was an article I saw today, if I'm not mistaken, that as far as he knows, or period, I guess, Nick Fury is not going to be in the Black Widow movie.
All right.
Partially kind of doesn't make sense, but at the same time, yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say it could play both ways though with that.
Sure.
That's the thing, because
Exactly.
this is pre-Shield days. So
Or yeah, well, there is that. Exactly. I mean, we don't know. Like, given what happened in Endgame, like, could be just a flashback before then, or
Mhm.
could be leading up to her being the Shield. Hell, it doesn't necessarily have to be Fury. It could be like, hey, Maria Hill's the one that kind of approaches her near the end or something.
right. So
The Taskmaster is probably going to look like to be.
yeah, I was about to say spoiler alert here.
If these pictures are to be.
Right. What people are interpreting these set photos to mean is that Taskmaster is going to be introduced on the big screen, and apparently that one of the actresses is also playing the part of Yelena Belova.
Yes. Oh, yes, the girl from that other wrestling movie that came out fairly recently.
Another the subsequent Black Widow,
Yes.
a blonde-haired Black Widow.
Might as well go ahead and say the blonde-haired one, because that's the only one. I mean, if you know anything about the Black Widow, you outside of cinematically, you kind of know.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's in her backstory. So yeah, there you go.
All right. Cool.
Next up, Paul Rudd answers the call for Jason Reitman's Ghostbusters movie. So yeah,
I love how he was right by the firehouse. It's right near where my office is downtown. You know, like
really.
yeah, because it's just a couple blocks away on Lafayette.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, with the Ghostbusters firehouse.
So yeah, in which the video, which I don't see, was in the channel. Yeah, it says here that in the video from Paul Rudd, it says he's in front of the firehouse looking at it from, like Agent 70 said. It was just not far. And yeah, he says, I can't wait to join the cast this fall for Ghostbusters. In fact, I'm sliming myself right now. But oh, Paul. So yeah, the new film is coming out in July 2020, and if you did not know, this is the original cast, including Sigourney Weaver, and I believe that did they say
Did they get Bill Murray?
I'm not sure. Yes.
Holy cow!
So it's the cast.
And so they got the actor that plays Winston, right?
Yeah, I think he was already.
Right. So the only one that's not there is Egon because he's passed away.
Right.
Okay, cool.
And actually, I don't know if did they get Rick Moranis? Like, that one's the one I don't remember if they got. Because remember, he was there for I don't know, and it doesn't say here, so yeah, I don't know. I think they did say they got Rick Moranis, but I'm not even sure, so it doesn't matter at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The Keymaster and the what are the other one, and the Gatekeeper,
right?
Maybe not be back together again. Next up, and not really sad news.
Exactly, not the saddest news in the world. Channing Tatum's Gambit movie is no longer in development.
Although, so I'm having this We Got It Covered site, which I got it from. It's like one step from being a gossip thing to me, and I'm not sure whether to believe this or not. But I'm just gonna put this here anyway because it sounds more plausible than even if it is even if that's the case. Because why does this movie need to be?
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, it's been, like this article says, the Gambit movie's been sitting in development hell, and Channing Tatum's been, steadily trying to get this done, but it sounds like, according to this report from Deadline, that tells us that the problem isn't "quote unquote" bubbling in development right now. So that's potentially meaning that it could be killed, or they just shelved it because of everything else that has happened with the Disney merger that's still being panned out or something. We don't know. I would go so far as to say maybe Disney was like, I don't know, what's that movie? That's just me, though. Just me. Next up,
Next up, the official trailer for Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans. Oh, wait,
Wait,
hold
yeah,
on. No, this is you.
I think you skipped something else.
Yeah, no. This is you because I did Channing Tatum.
No, but you skipped one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Holy crap! This Star Wars short made me excited for the Jedi for once. So there was another one of those Galaxy of one of those short films, Galaxy of Adventure shorts that is on the Star Wars Kids YouTube site at this point. As we're seeing the other news that is going to get to later, and the person who wrote this article saying that they enjoyed it. It basically looks like a bunch of the lightsaber duels during the various courses of the movies in animated form that were put together. Sounds like I did not watch this yet.
So they played Duel of the Fates in the background?
Probably. I mean, you can't really have a lightsaber battle without doing that. So I would go without having seen this 1,000% probably. Just off the cuff. But like I said, I hadn't watched this yet, and so I don't necessarily know. But that would be a miss. That would be especially from the Star Wars YouTube page, would be a missed opportunity.
Right.
So anyway, if you're so inclined, go check that out. It looks from the GIFs, it looks pretty cool.
Cool.
I mean, I could have played the video right there, but I'm not doing it. So next up.
All right, next up. Now I can talk about this.
Now you can talk about it.
Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans brings together multiple universes of Titans.
Titans.
Right. So the official trailer for Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans debuted on IGN, and the anime pits the current comedy-focused animated version of the team against the more action-oriented early 2000s animated version with many,
aka the one that people bitch about wanting to come back.
That's the one I want back.
Mm-hmm.
And with many more iterations of the team also getting roped in. So yeah, I had recently on this show confused the two. I had thought that I couldn't for the life of me remember that Teen Titans Go is the actual title of this comedy, like short based animated version, and that Teen Titans was just the title for the earlier version, the earlier series, until I was able to gain access to the DC Universe app and just able to watch older versions. I was like, oh, okay, this is why I'm wrong. This is there wasn't easy access to Teen Titans, but now they're crossing over. So
yes. Which, hey, and as this article says, many more iterations of the team, which means they're outside of the base crew that you know and love. There are other, I'm sure also other Rands.
Right. It's almost like this is a predecessor to Young Justice.
Yeah, I mean, basically it is. Yeah, because because Young Justice was pretty much a Teen Titan group, but not.
Right, not in name. Right.
And in somewhat, and in it's kind of like a mini Justice League or Justice League because they had the versions of the legacy versions of the big three.
Mm-hmm.
So that Young Justice kind of comprises itself of. So I guess speaking of, I don't know if I had that in here. I think I do.
You do. It's the story after the next one.
Okay, so in that case, let's just go ahead and get onto it. So did they have Teen Titans go on DC Universe or just Teen Titans?
We could look it up.
I know Teen Titans is on there, but I didn't know if they had Go on there. I happen to like Teen Titans Go. Yes, it's the more play for comedy version of the crew, but I didn't have as big an issue on it than as a lot of other people did.
I have issues with it. It's just silly.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be silly. So
right, exactly. That's the knowing that that's the point softens the blow a lot, but it's still like, oh, come on.
Like somebody going to thinking that it's supposed to be the other Teen Titans is like, no, come on, stop.
All right.
Anyway.
So first Teen Titans is here, 2003 to 2006. Static Shock is here. So is Legion of Superheroes. I didn't realize they had 2 years of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Go is not on this.
That kind of makes sense because I think Go was on Hulu, and they hadn't pulled that stuff over. But anyway, next
just for our information. Okay.
Speaking of Titans Anna Diop shows off Starfire's updated season 2 hairstyle.
I think it's Jop.
Diop.
No, Jop. Yeah.
Okay.
Like pronounce it like J-O-P.
I got it. Yeah, because I've never heard the name being spoken, so my apologies for that. And yeah. So anyway, so yeah, she's took to her Instagram, and looks like she's showing it off there. So, and yeah, there was a lot of controversy about the character, which from stupid ass people, and including the stuff about the original hairstyle, or the hairstyle they had for her there, and costume, and all this and all that, and whatever. Hey, it is what it is.
It's an adaptation.
Yes, exactly. So
It's an adaptation.
Which a lot of stuff that, I mean, there's a lot more people saying that they like the version than not like the version that DC Universe has. So I still have to finish it.
I would just say that the character has to be different because she doesn't have the mother hen of the Titans, Donna Troy, actively in the team. She's there.
Yeah, but so she is there, but
right, but not in the way that the character was laid out in the original comics.
And I believe it's a slightly younger version than that Donna Troy, if I'm not mistaken.
Roughly the same, but at the end of the day, my point being, if you read, the way the character develops as part of the origin story of that version of the Titans, Donna has a big role to play in helping Corey navigate Earth customs, and becoming an Earther, as opposed to this movie as opposed to this TV adaptation that kind of puts her into a role very quickly.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of explains away how she came to be on Earth later on. So. Right. So that's a difference.
And it all might be going away if rumors are to believe. We don't know what's going on with what's what.
Right. Next up, Young Justice, Outsiders returns. Yes.
And I believe this is still season 3, just the latter part.
Right.
Because they took a break.
Right. And it returns to deal with like 10 million characters.
That sounds about right, because Young Justice tends to throw some jokers in there left and right. So right.
So it hasn't dropped yet. Right? Or has it dropped?
No, it has. It just started back.
Season 2. Yeah, I'm a flex right now and scroll through and see.
Because I also remember Tim, who also said that this is his beat for Comic Resources, said that he's on it, and it just started back this week. And I think he had an article about it, which I saw this one first, so that's why I took this one.
Gotcha. That is funny as hell.
And I know he's also a fan of Young Justice, like I am. So.
Oh yeah, exactly. You guys were on this way early. Oh, it's Young Justice Outsiders. That's what.
Yes. Yeah, that's what they call us. The 3rd season.
Right. So it's 3rd season. Scrolling.
So yeah.
What was the last one?
Well, the one that just comes out is the latest one is 16.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so that's the one, because it doesn't say like brand new. It just says that in 5 days, episode 17 drops.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, because they're doing them weekly as opposed to just dropping everything at once.
Right. God forbid you can't binge. But anyway.
Probably just as well. But yeah. I'm like, it kind of doesn't make any sense at this point, but it's also still under the grasp of old media in a ways. So yeah, but that said, hey, new episode out this week, and the rest of season 2 come in the coming weeks. So if you haven't checked that out, go for it. I am still behind because I told myself I was going to do a rewatch of all of it, and I still hadn't hit season 3 yet. So yeah, have at it. Next up, Batman Hush, Shazam documentary, and more coming to SDCC, which we are slow a couple of weeks coming to.
Yeah, we are rapidly approaching San Diego Comic-Con.
Which, and as I said previously on the show, that we start to see more stuff headed toward, and we have already started seeing more news coming out of San Diego before it happens. And sure enough, it has. I think there's even a couple of things, more other things in the lineup. So anyway, so there's going to be a bunch of stuff at San Diego Comic-Con coming up, and including the stuff named, not up and including talk about the Teen Titans versus Go movie, Batman Hush, which I thought was already out, but I guess not. Scooby-Doo has got a new thing coming out, which I think Urkel shows up in that. They're talking about the Banana Splits movie and a Shazam documentary, which ought to be good, and a bunch of other stuff. We don't have to go through all of that. Nevertheless, if you're going to be at San Diego, you can go check that out at your leisure. Next up, Shazam director's commentary reveals behind, not BTS as in the Korean no,
K-pop group. Anytime I see that, though, I'm just like, they're invading everything.
Yeah, at this point, I get that.
Reveals behind-the-scenes magic and zaps up a hidden featurette. So, yeah, it's Shazam is officially available now for digital purchase. So you can watch at home this movie that I still not yet have seen. So I'm going to have to make some time to find a way to watch this.
Meanwhile, I believe the other Captain Marvel is also out on.
Well, it's already out on hard copy.
I know. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is already out, so not far from each other in both respects. Anyway, so there's a hidden featurette, and it'll be out. Well, I think it's next week, or it's either next week or the week after that. The Blu-ray version has come out. I can look at this article and see. You know what? Kind of doesn't matter. Next up. Some big news for folks, for I know a certain section of folks, because a person that I follow hit me to this news that I'm not real big on, but hey, and that would be Sandman TV series reportedly lands at Netflix.
There's lots of people out there.
There are a lot of Sandman. Yes, there are a lot of Neil Gaiman fans, specifically for the Sandman, and obviously American Gods is already out there in live action form. So yeah, and I think we had heard rumblings of this previously, that we had talked about, that they were shopping this around, and now it has landed on Netflix, which kills a breeze, I guess, at this point. So the series is to be written by Alan Heinberg, Wonder Woman, Grey's Anatomy, who also serves as a showrunner. Gaiman himself will executive produce along with David S. Goyer, which, again, no surprise. All of those names,
right?
Are known at this point for that kind of stuff. So, minus Gaiman, but still. So yeah, Sandman fans rejoice, I guess. Like I said, like I told somebody, I've never read it and nor really cared to. So don't send me the issue. Don't send me the books.
Yeah. All right, next.
I will not read it.
President Bartlett.
What's next?
I'll tell you what's next. Netflix has revealed the first look at the Witcher cast, including Aegon Targaryen. I mean, the Witcher character played by... That's not my joke. I totally put that off somebody.
Nice.
It's Henry Cavill playing whoever the main character is.
Geralt.
There you go.
Yes. So, if you did not know, The Witcher is a video game series that is now going to be a show, and Henry Cavill playing the main character of said series.
Who is not Aegon Targaryen.
Who is not Aegon Targaryen. I don't know who that. I know who that is. But
that's supposed to be Jon Snow.
Yes. Oh wait, is that his actual name?
Yeah. Well, did I just spoil the end of Game
I don't care. It's not that serious. You might have spoiled it for somebody, but
yeah, right. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, it's fine. So yeah, and we also show pictures of the actresses who are playing Yennefer and Ciri. Not the voice.
Yeah, I was going to say not the voice assistant for Apple.
No. Who are also a part of the video game series. So yeah, there you go. Sure, that's the thing. I don't know. Wait, does it say when this thing's actually going to happen? later 2019. So yeah, sometime later this year that'll happen.
Okay.
Next.
This
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Small update on the new RoboCop movie, which is apparently still happening.
okay.
Yeah, there you go. So last year we got news that Neil Blomkamp, possibly as penance from the universe for not getting to make that Alien movie he was really hyped for, was working on a RoboCop. That was the editorialization for the author. Was working on RoboCop Returns, a direct follow-up to the original 1987. Wait, hold up. There's been 2 sequels to RoboCop, so they're basically saying they're
Terminator.
yeah, they're doing exactly. I was about to say that they're basically doing a Terminator, just brushing off the last 2. Chris, then again, you know what? That's probably all for the better because our RoboCop 3 was not great. It was not great at all. Anyway, so yeah, that's the thing. Blomkamp is still on, and apparently somebody decided to get out there and say, "Hey, guess what? We're still here."
Yeah, right.
I think I'll go for a walk now. Anyway, that's that.
Alrighty, I thought we were at the end of cinematic news.
No,
There is one carryover story.
Mm-hmm.
The Gears of War movie will be set in an alternate reality, but will still be on Sarah and involve certain characters. So this is based on the video game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a first peek at the movie online. It's an interview with IGN. And okay.
Yeah, and
Have fun with that.
Obviously, the reason why this is in here, just like The Witcher, there have been comic books made for both of those, just despite them coming originally from video games. All right, now we're going to go into the comic book news. Marvel quietly introduces Logan's powerful new kid because as if he did not have enough, as if he has not quote unquote sired enough progeny.
Right. And I have a comment on that after you wrap this story.
You know what? I'm done. Go for it.
Just very quickly. So we don't know if this is the case for sure. We'll see how this plays out. But apparently there was a run on this issue and the last issue of Marvel. I think it's like issues 5 and 6 of the Marvel Comics Presents series. There's a run on that series because of this first appearance business. And we're not 100% sure if that's the case or not. It actually makes me want to go back and read our review copies because I don't remember reading them.
Stop reading after issue 2.
4. I actually read up to 4.
Huh.
But in a book that we read last week, or that I read last week, the one shot Wolverine Exit Wounds.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a teased Wolverine progeny in there as well. So I thought that's where the hype was going to come from.
Interesting.
Right. It was just very confusing for someone who read Exit Wounds, but then I saw that it was regarding a character appearing in the MCP book. Marvel Comics Presents, when I say MCP.
Right. I like how if you're watching the video, you can see the panel that they pulled from that issue. And Wolverine's like, I'm pretty sure she's my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, she looks more like the Enchantress. But then again, that's, I don't know, in a different direction. But then again, if you go down the line, you see Snicked, which, guess what?
Right.
So, yeah, sure. All right. That's the thing. Next up.
Okay. One moment. I got to switch back to the regular sheet from the spillover sheet.
Uh-huh.
All right. Former Iceman writer shines a light on Marvel's struggles with representation. So
yeah, basically, Sena Grace, I think it's Sena Grace, who wrote both of the volumes of Iceman's short-lived series from the last couple of years. Just basically talked about his issue or the issues that he had with Marvel writing said book. that I did not read this article, so I'm not even going to go into it. But I think it's worth a good read.
Okay.
I would say that. So, but the bottom line is basically that Marvel seems to still have a good way to go in dealing with some issues.
No surprise.
Yes, especially dealing with characters of color and gay characters. So there you go. Next up, Darth Vader boards Marvel Comics 1000. So apparently, do we even Okay, we've heard a bunch of stuff about this Marvel Comics 1000. Don't know when in the world exactly it is, or we do. Yeah, it is coming out soon, and it is. We do know it is for their 80th anniversary, which is this year. So that part is quite well known. But this is going to be written by Shaw Soule, who famously did a run on Darth Vader's book. I think he was the first run on Darth Vader's book, which is great, by the way. And artist Terry Dodson, who has done some Star Wars work also, in addition to a bunch of other stuff he's done for Marvel. Are working on a one-page story to be included in the 96-page anthology. Which, we knew it was an anthology, but sure. It is included with the stories will be in a continuity with Marvel's comic universe of Star Wars or whatever. So we don't know if it's going to be like a Marvel Comics tie-in or just going to be Star Wars just in general. So whenever that comes out, we'll find out when you find out. Next.
Thanos creator Jim Starlin celebrates the Mad Titans' best years at San Diego Comic-Con. So I guess he's going to be making an appearance there. He's going to host an exclusive panel.
Yes.
During which he will discuss the Mad Titans' best years ever.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday panel, July 18th.
Yep.
That's coming up soon.
Yes, it is.
It's less than 2 weeks.
And I'll never go, apparently. Unless someone wants to sponsor a trip for, you know what? I'm not even gonna put that out there like that. Anyway, we know somebody who's gonna be there.
Yes,
at the very least. So
it's always nice that we have a connection that makes his way to San Diego Comic-Con. So.
Even if we ourselves will probably never. Well, I don't know. I see one of us probably going, but it won't be either one of us.
I was about to say never say never on either one of us, but I would say that one member of our panel is more likely to go sooner rather than later.
Exactly. Yeah, like you, I don't. Yeah. Yes. And out of the two of us, I definitely will take me out of the running. I would love to, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Especially with how those tickets, man. The ticket thing with that thing is
right. It's
crazy as a celebration.
Listen. As a veteran of getting New York Comic-Con tickets, I understand that it's gotten almost as crazy as San Diego Comic-Con tickets. So it's just a matter of getting into the system and getting used to it.
And you're already there on that front, so that's
right. Like I said,
and even still, is from what you've even said, is kind of a battle.
Yes. Oh no, my understanding is that it's gotten to that point where it's just about not quite as crazy as getting San Diego tickets, but it's just about as crazy.
So yeah, but nevertheless, keep hope alive, folks. Speaking of zombies, Marvel announces the return of Marvel Zombies. So we alluded to this earlier when I was talking about Deceased. So yeah, they're bringing back Marvel Zombies again. And there's another issue. Well, there's another thing we'll get to in a minute, which this also comes around. But yeah, I think last Tuesday this was talked about on Twitter, and a peek at the cover, which if you're watching the video, you can see the cover, what looks to be the cover, and it's going to be October 19th. So I'm going to chalk this up as being a case of, guess what? Marvel copied DC, who copied them years before. Who probably, some would argue, copied The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Someone would probably say that, whether they're right or wrong or not. But so yeah, the book is coming out in October, and yeah, it's another version of Marvel Zombies. Yay! Who was actually written by Kirkman of the Walkman Dude, Robert Kirkman. Yay.
Huh?
Anyway, next up.
House of X will change everything in the Marvel Universe.
Did you see the video?
According to Joe Quesada.
Yes. Did you see the video?
I did not.
So there is a video on, I believe it is on Marvel's YouTube site. You know, there's something, which is a weird thing. Comics doing video trailers for upcoming comic books and whatnot. So there's a video out there with like the likes of Jason Aaron, Jerry Duggan, and a couple other creators talking about. Oh, and Jordan White, one of the editors of Marvel, talking about how, you know, the impact of what Hickman's run of is going to be. It's an interesting watch, even if it is basically hype. And also Hickman's on it too, you know, with a couple of lines. But you should check that out. Matter of fact, I will probably put it in the show notes when I was watching it the other day. But anyway, so yeah, this is shout out to Tim who wrote this. He's on the case. And in this article, you know, talking with Joe Quesada, posted his impressions of House of X on Twitter. You know. And he's saying, I just read House of X #1 before I headed out to the printer today, and it's hands down one of the revolutionary take on the world of mutants since Grant Morrison's run. And matter of fact, I think that video also mentioned Grant Morrison's run also. So coincidentally, I think not. I'm still trying to process how incredible this book is and how it will change everything in the MU. And I think there was a couple of lines of that in said video. Of saying similar things. So again, the hype machine has spun up, but given what we know about Hickman's run of Avengers, which that was also alluded to in said video from Hickman, and you know, I don't doubt it's going to be something good, but I would just prefer to wait and see when it happens at the end of this month.
Okay.
So, and yeah, I was right. So July 24th, House of X goes on sale July 21st, Powers of X July 31st.
All righty.
They're a week apart. I thought they were coming out the same week. Next up.
What's next?
House of X variant reveals new look for Cyclops. So, yeah. It's a variant cover for House of X #1. You see 5 iterations of Cyclops, including, I guess, the one that's going to be presented in the miniseries.
Interesting. All blue.
Well, I mean, you know, that's his thing. Well, technically, except for the new X-Men one, which is kind of black. But yes, he does like the dark. He does like the dark colors. Yeah, I guess you probably could get, because I think that was like the blue leather, the black leather. But I guess every other version is some dark version.
No, but the black leather had big yellow highlights. That's the thing. Like most of
them
had big
right.
yellow highlights, other than the most recent one.
Right.
So, that's the difference. But it's cool.
Yeah.
It's more action figures.
Yeah, basically. You know, I mean,
more action figures.
And let's face it, the original 5 have had their share of costume changes, more or less. But probably with the exception of Iceman, obviously. But that's neither here nor there. Next.
The official Twitter account for Kodansha's Manga Pocket app revealed this past Thursday that it will launch a new manga titled Spider-Man Fake Red, based on Marvel's Spider-Man character this summer. Marvel's supervising the manga original story, and I want to screw up this person's name. Yusuke Osawa is drawing the manga.
Yeah, Yusuke Osawa. Is drawing. Yeah, so yeah, unfortunately, there is not an English version of said app, so this is Japanese only. Unless you know Japanese and or have a Japanese iTunes and or Android account, yeah, you're out of luck.
Have fun typing that into Google Translate. Alrighty.
Yeah, right. Next up, Marvel's Avengers. Whoops. Dang it, stop it. Playing video. Anyway, Marvel's Avengers Comic Con panel will showcase exciting new content, including Ultimate Alliance 3, which is coming out in a couple of weeks, Iron Man VR, which I believe comes out this fall, and the aforementioned Marvel Avengers. So yeah, there's going to be a panel. Looks like Thursday, July 18th, in Hall H must be at 1. Yeah, because I don't think there's a Hall H.
Yeah.
Yes. 1:30 p.m. PT. And like I said, it'll be Bill Rossman of Marvel Games, and they'll be going over some of the upcoming stuff, including the aforementioned stuff. Which I dare say I'm excited for Marvel Ultimate Alliance, which is coming out in a couple of weeks on the Switch, and that I already bought.
All right.
Next
up, Spider-Man PS4 game is going to get 2 Spider-Man Far From Home crossover suits, and they're free for people who are on the game.
Mm-hmm. Which is what I love about the what they've been doing with stuff like that. And I don't believe that the Avengers game would be that much different. I mean, they will be having paid DLC, but they're also they may or may not be. They will probably be doing some free stuff in it, like they've been doing with the Spider-Man game. So yeah, and I think that is already live. And I think there was already yes, because the Homecoming suit was already in the game, and they just added if you're watching the video, that's one of the suits, the 2 suits from Far From Home.
Yeah, the 2 new additions.
Yes, which you've seen. If you've seen the trailers, you already know what they are. So because there's really nothing more. It's the stuff suit and the upgraded suit that he gets. So yeah, I haven't messed with it, but I do have to. So if you've updated that game, if you have it, it's a good game to play, by the way. If I haven't said that before millions of times. Next up,
it's you.
Fantasy Flight Games releases live stream schedule for July. Now, what does this have to do with a comic book podcast? Well, probably. Fantasy Flight Games are basically, and I know Agent 70 knows this because we have talked behind the scenes about some stuff they've done. Basically, they're going to do a live stream because they have new games. They basically are the ones who put out the Star Wars, amongst other things, but Star Wars role-playing games.
Okay.
And looks like there's an expansion. I believe this is an expansion for one of the games. I think this is the board game. Yes, maybe. So yeah. Let's see. They explored the Clone Wars core set for Star Wars Legion. That is, so it's an expansion for one of their games, Star Wars Legion. And then let's see, there is the tactical battles of Star Wars Armada as we take a look at the Rebellion and the Rim campaign expansion. So basically, the expansions to their some of their role playing and board games. So cool beans. Next.
All right, next up, Doomsday Clock, the comic that I'm still gambling on not finishing in the year 2019. The story is connected to Bendis's Legion of Superheroes. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah. Next up, seems to be the Bendis block, just like we had the Tom Holland's block. Wait.
Yeah, Bendis teases.
Yeah, I know, but for some strange reason I had that there twice. But Bendis teases Tim Drake's new costume for Young Justice with Young Justice preview. So yeah, as we know, as you may or may not know, on his imprint, the Young Justice is out there, and it's actually a pretty good book. I dare say, even by, well, I don't know. I was about to say something that might sound slanderous. Anyway, so yeah, Bendis took to Twitter and put out. Oh, excuse me, that's not Twitter. That's Instagram, and showed an image from an upcoming Young Justice book as they will be perusing the multiverse, and it looks like at the bottom. Wait, is that Naomi? It looks like that might be Naomi, which is another of his creations. But anyway, at the bottom you can see Tim Drake's new costume.
Right. My understanding is that isn't he taking on a new code name?
I believe that has also been the case. Yes.
Right. I think that's right. I think that's the bigger story is that he's actually not going to be a Robin anymore.
That is correct. Yes, and because even though he showed up as a Robin in the story, and we wasn't really sure when or how that played into the thing, because I think he had stopped being a Robin in previous universe changes or something. You know, when New 52 and all that kind of whatever. But basically, he got his memories back of Young Justice because he had initially forgot about all of Young Justice and all that kind of goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And now he got his memories back of that. So I guess through all of that is going to be set change. So yeah, and yes, that is Naomi. So yeah, cool. It'll be in, let's see, Young Justice number 7, which is coming soon. Cool.
Alrighty.
Next.
Stop. Tanya Biswas jumps from Yen Press to Penguin to launch a Square Enix manga line. So,
yeah,
he was in charge of adapting and editing 30 to 40 manga per year for Yen Press, and now beginning this month, she's begun a position with Penguin to adapt the Square Enix titles. I guess a lot of them based on video games.
That's correct. So yeah, so they're basically manga versions of Square Enix properties, from what it sounds like. So yeah, Final Fantasy, Full Metal Alchemist, Soul Eater, Black Butler, Tomb Raider, Dragon Quest, and Nier Automata. Looks like coming down the pike this fall. Nier Automata, also a good book. I mean, good game. So anyway, congratulations to her. Next up, so
here are the next 2 stories, I think.
Yes. So this has been rumbling the last day or so, partially wrongly. And this is why you should kind of wait and see if there's some official news in some particular place, because it's basically Mad Magazine, according to this article, reportedly shutting down after 67 years. That is not necessarily the case. So basically, one, there was a blogger going out there that saying that they had rumors that they heard from someone else that Mad Magazine was that was shutting down because a contributor to Mad Magazine was basically saying goodbye to Mad after they had gotten some emails about something or other. And they were making it sound like, as a matter of fact, yeah, here's the tweet here if you're watching the video, saying today won't end, goodbye Mad Magazine. As a youngster, I was a huge fan, which basically sounded like they were leaving. To me, if sense prevails, it sounded like they were not going to be with Mad anymore, and not that the fact that Mad was shutting down. But a lot of people took this and ran with it, and the other blogger saying that Mad was shutting down. But the actual case seems to be that Mad Magazine, as you know it, will cease to exist, meaning that they're not going to be on news. You're not going to be able to buy it on the newsstands anymore, and that that they basically have 2 more like original issues of Mad to come down the line, but then they're going to basically repurposing old materials, which Mad is no stranger to doing it anyway. And they're going to put it sell it in the direct market, which means that, like I said, you won't be able to buy it in, say, in a store anymore. So that's not necessarily mean that's not shutting it down, just the fact that it's being repurposed. Now, there's also the speculation that it could lead to them just shutting it completely down at some point, but that's not exactly what happened, and people were kind of blowing it out as it being just killed, And even before, like when I saw this article here from Dick DeBartolo, who was a longtime writer of Mad Magazine, I was like, well, didn't want to say that there's no way in the world, unless hearing from DC or someone who would know any better. And even Dick DiBartolo was like, I didn't get the email that some of the other people that he knew was getting, one, and two, the information that was in this article is what kind of reiterated that from what he knew. So yeah, sometimes you need to take a wait and see, or get some more official confirmation before a lot of stuff gets put out, because there were a lot of people like, oh, Mad Magazine's dying or dead or this and that other, and that's not saying that it's still not, but it's just changing. So so
Okay.
sometimes it's, in social media, we're kind of quick to kill things and not actually have any proof. Because like I said, if I had heard it from like DC or Warner Brothers, or like I said, DiBartolo or something like that, I'd have been like, okay, well, clearly they are just killing it.
Yeah, DC put out a clarification tweet, if I'm not mistaken,
Exactly.
earlier today or after the story.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, because they had confirmed it to, well, they confirmed what they were doing to CNET, which is why this article came about, and then they went out to Twitter to say something themselves, because, like I said, it made it sound like. But at the same time, there are some people that were like, well, you know what? I think somebody made the point. This is like, well, if they're doing this to Mad, and Mad's doing way more numbers than a lot of DC books, imagine what they're doing with their other books, which not terribly wrong, but at the same time, not really justified. I don't know. What do I know? Anyway, that's the thing. Mad, as you originally knew it, is going, but it's not the end of Mad Magazine.
Alrighty.
Yeah, like you still find it out there. Anyway, next up.
All right. Nicholas Scott paints a bright future for Black Magic. So Greg Rucka and Nicholas Scott's Black Magic which is a series that went on hiatus back in May 2018 and ended with a cliffhanger in issue number 11. They will be releasing it. They just haven't been able to confirm that it's going to be able to be released on a monthly schedule until they get some issues in the can.
And that tends to happen with a lot of some creator-owned stuff. So that's not entirely out of the ordinary. I believe I just saw Pretty Deadly was finally starting to come back, and it's been on hiatus for like 3 or 4 good years. But yeah, Agent 70 has a crush on Nicholas Scott.
I do? Who's that?
See, that's how you put rumors out there. Anyway, so yeah, that's the thing that's happened. I've not read that book, so I don't know too much about it. But it's creator owned, and there you go. Next up, Jean Luen Yang gets personal in new graphic novel Dragon Hoops. So from the writer of American Born Chinese, which got a lot of accolades. Dragon Hoops is also his first work of nonfiction. The book focuses on his life, his family, and the high school where he teaches. And the synopsis goes on to kind of tell what is it about. So hey, if you like American Born Chinese and you like Jean Yang, go check this out, I guess.
Alrighty.
Next.
The Black Ranger. This should be your time. This should be your story. Because this is a Power Ranger stuff. The Black Ranger dons the Dragon Shield, a new Lightning Collection figure from Hasbro this fall. God.
Oh,
Power Rangers, people.
Yes. So yeah, so just like I think we talked about the Red Ranger set, this is another figure that's coming along the line. It's going to be $20. It's going to be at Walgreens. It's basically the Black Ranger with the Dragon Shield, and that's cool. But there's not really much else to be said about that. Next. Oh yes, great. I got this one. Yeah.
No. Oh no. Yeah.
I got this one. Yeah. Kirkland and Image confirmed The Walking Dead ends with issue 193, which came out this week. 194 and 195 canceled. And so notably, it's out of the blue, supposedly. I don't think it's as out of the blue as some people are saying it is. Like, yeah, it's certain that we're getting word of it, but I feel like somebody along the line may have known this was coming, or something happened that caused this. Because there's only a couple of things that would normally would cause a cancellation this abrupt. And I would say this abrupt. It's 193 issues. That the thing's been going on longer than a lot of there's probably been 193 comic books canceled by the big two alone in the time that this book has been around.
Sure.
And I know there are some people, and one of which we know of, who have had some words about the cancellation of which I think we're probably a little stronger than just personally, but that's just me.
I don't know. I mean, with regards to retailers, I actually heard retailers kind of echo the sentiment that a little bit of forewarning would have helped.
I agree on that point. I do agree on that.
That's the part I'm talking about.
But the words, what you saw, what I saw was a little. That's a little harsh. But I understand the sentiment sort of behind it.
Yeah, that really stinks though from the retailer's perspective.
It does, but I mean, I question. I don't know. I have questions. That's all I'm saying about that. So yeah, it is abrupt on that song, but
I mean, is it artificially created for the original print?
Who's to say?
You know.
But like I said, I go back to what I said. Like, I don't know. There's usually a reason that it's so abrupt, and I would not like to believe that it was artificially created. Especially like it says, like the next two issues were canceled. So I don't know. Usually that would mean something behind the scenes is not right, but that's not necessarily always the case. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when we hear about something canceled and the issues after it being canceled after that, it's because the creator done some dirt or something. And again, I'm not saying that this is the case. We don't know. But I don't know. Hey, look, it had a nice run. The show also had a nice run. Now, if they had said it's like, no, we're killing the book because of the show, which would be kind of ass backwards, that would be fucked up also. But I don't know. Like I said, I feel like there's something we don't know about why this ended so abruptly. But like I said, the reseller side, sure, that's a thing, I guess. Like, but are retailers really hinging their sales on this one book? That would be the other thing. Like, I'm pretty sure there's the 2 or 3 Batman books that sell fairly decently every month they're probably still doing all right with.
It's hard to say.
I know people like this book and this book alone, and people come into the book specifically for this book. I'm not saying that they don't. Like, I get the strength of this book. I get it. So I don't know. Like, there's things I don't know. But anyway, going into that, The Walking Dead 193 sold out from Diamond, selling for over $16 on eBay already, which surprise.
Right.
You know, like, especially hearing about that this is his last book. Yeah, of course it went to eBay and getting hyped and getting balled up. So yeah, I mean, you hate to see a book end, but at the same time, hey, that book's got to run. And I feel like there's something we don't know about the behind the scenes in this book. And it might be nothing. Who knows? Next up.
Or it could be just that they really couldn't make it to 200. You know, it's like, we could have stretched this to 200, so let's end it now.
Well, maybe, but if they were making the length to do it, if they canceled the next 2 issues after that, though, I don't know. You're probably right about that, but at the same time, like I said, why not let the other 2 issues come out?
Well, they solicited 2, right?
Yeah.
Well, that means they're likely trying to. I mean, this is just pure conjecture on my part. They're trying to lead into, I guess, the final story, but whatever. They decided to end it on their terms, and
we would hope.
Right. Well, remember, this is creator-owned stuff, so
Mhm.
Kirkman ended it the way he wanted to end it. He owned the whole thing, so
Did he though?
who else owned it?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that he owned it, that he ended it on his own terms. Like, wouldn't he, if he ended it on his own terms, wouldn't he let the other two books go out if that was the case? Especially when they were already.
Not necessarily. Not if this is the story he wanted to tell. This is the way he wanted to end it. This
I,
was an exercised issue, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, I kind of don't buy that. I mean, I get it, but I don't kind of buy that.
Well, ultimately, it's his choice because there's no other. I mean, obviously, not counting for market forces or other issues at Image, but in terms of who calls the final shot on the book, it's still Kirkman. So
Sure, but again,
I mean, honestly, that's all we're all sort of left with. Like, this was his decision. So what influenced his decision? That can, that's more where you're coming from. But
fine, but I'm still kind of also stuck on like okay, there were two books already solicited out there that I don't know that if they were actually anywhere near done, I don't know. Like I said, there's things I don't know about that, and it's none.
Because solicitations are just teases, so
I know that.
But my point is there might be cover art done for it, but internals might not be completed.
Or there might have been. We don't know. We really don't know.
Right.
So at this point, unless something else happens to come out about it, it's all conjecture on either one of our parts. So.
Exactly. So, but I'm comfortable with the idea that I don't think there's anything too crazy going on because it's a creator-owned book as opposed to one of the big two.
Right. I mean, like I'll put it to you this way. I would love to believe. I would like to take your stance to it, and yeah, it is all, and definitely, like you said, it is on him and it's his decision. But I feel like that should seem like to me that would have come up before now, like not out of the blue. That's just my thing. I don't know, but again, like I said, whatever. Next up, last one.
Last story, Cobra Kai. A comic book is launching this fall from IDW.
Yes, the
based on the YouTube,
based on the YouTube book, based off the movie, or loosely based off of.
What's that actually?
Well, I know what I'm saying. Loosely based off of potential.
My understanding. I was just going to say, my understanding of the YouTube Premium Cobra Kai show is that it's literally a direct sequel to all of the Karate Kid movies.
Right. Yeah, it is. It is.
Oh.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. But because
the comic book is loosely based on
right. But yeah, the comic book is based off of that, which is based off of Karate Kid, or whatever happened there. So yeah, and apparently the first 4 arc is going to be the retelling of Karate Kid movie from the perspective of Johnny Lawrence, who played by Williams Zabka, goes on to be the focus of Cobra Kai. Sweet leg, Johnny.
Get him a body bag. Apparently, something bad happens to that character.
I don't remember.
I've heard people talk about it. So.
Oh, really? I don't know. I don't know.
I've heard people talk about it, watched it, and
right, because from what I heard about the show, it was like, well, basically, the Johnny's the protagonist, and that Ralph Macchio's character has now turned into the bad guy, so quote unquote, not necessarily.
Exactly. All right.
So anyway, that's it. Last ad read.
Last ad read of the night is for Busted Tees. All right. This episode of the Comic Chronicles is sponsored by Busted Tees, your home for funny, awesome, cool t-shirts that are sure to get your friends' attention. Busted Tees puts many of their popular shirt designs on sale each week. Choose from several eye-catching t-shirts inspired by pop culture. Cleverly themed t-shirts inspired by movies, video games, TV shows, comic books, and geek culture, and more are all on sale. To help keep our podcast free, order from Busted Tees by going to cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link. Click on the Busted Tees banner, and then shop for awesome t-shirts. Busted Tees through cspn.us. Do it today.
And as we head fastly, rapidly, and all that kind of good jazz, at the end of this episode, I'd like to thank you all for coming out. For myself, RowdyCat at RowdyCat on Twitter, and Newsers Need on Twitter, Newsers Need Reddit, and CB Caps on Instagram. Okay, delayed reaction there. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, popculturenetwork.com, and all of his umbrella sites therein. And the Osiris is Tim DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Cron on Twitter, The Click Nation on Twitter, theclicknation.com. That's DKLIQNATION. And also, sorry, that was my fault. And also Comic Book Resources, where he's writing his face off. You can join us back here next week for another exciting episode of this here show.
We're rapidly approaching San Diego Comic-Con, so get ready for a whole bunch of casting choices and announcement where we're all going to ask.
Why?
Hold on. Who? That's what we're going to ask.
All right, I forgot you had that. Nice. But until then, so yeah, we should definitely start hearing a little bit more news coming out by next week from the show, as you've seen tonight. So until then, hope your 4th of July was a good one. You had a good day off, you ate some barbecue, whatever you do, don't infringe on other people's rights, that kind of good stuff. Okay, I was about to go into a little rant, but never we're going to do that. This has been the Click Nation's Comic Book Chronicle, and we are out.
Peace. One.
Good evening, Rick. Would you believe it's Dr. Doom? What's on your evil mind? Oh,